Welcome in. I'm Zach Merchant. It is 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon here, and we are tracking multiple developing stories right now. President Donald Trump is speaking to reporters inside of the White House. You're looking live inside of those remarks. He has been speaking for the better part of the last 40 or 50 minutes at this point. His remarks come following the Supreme Court's decision earlier today, striking down his ability to unilaterally impose tariffs under an emergency powers law, striking down, at least for now, a key component of his economic agenda. We're going to take you to some of his key remarks from this address coming up in just a few moments, but we are going to turn now to day 5 of the trial of Colin Gray, the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter. Our Grace King has been inside of the courtroom all day, and she joins us now live. Grace, what have jurors been hearing today?
Well, Zach, we've heard a lot. We started off this morning with the crime scene investigator from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. She went inside the Gray home on the day of the shooting and actually documented all the things she saw. I really want to show you some of these pictures that she shared with us earlier. She went inside the house. She photographed each room one by one, and part of that included going inside Colt's bedroom. She said from the doorway, one of the first things you saw was a shrine of the Parkland Marjorie Stoneman Douglas convicted shooter. They had multiple pictures of him displayed on the wall. It was about 4 feet tall, she said, and newspaper clippings from the Parkland shooting. Again, she said that was the first thing she saw just walking in that door. Then she went and took photos around the house. They had, targets that had clearly been shot a lot of times. Colt and his dad said they went hunting together a lot, practiced at target ranges. And then there was also 2 unsecured weapons just hanging out in the dad's closet. And she said there was loose ammo just scattered throughout the house. Some of it was in the laundry room, the carport, the dad's bedroom, Colt's bedroom, just kind of all over throughout the house. So we started with the GBI investigator showing us just what it looked like inside the Gray home, and then we moved on to Colt's family members.
Did Colt talk to you about a Christmas present he had gotten?
Sure.
Okay, and what was that Christmas present?
It was a gun.
Okay, and was it a rifle?
Yes.
Okay. Who did you get the Christmas present from?
From his dad.
Okay.
So that's Colt's grandma, Debbie Polhamus. She testified that she was constantly in the kids' lives trying to help Colt and his siblings. Her daughter, Colt's mom, Marcy Gray, struggled with addiction, so she was in and out of the kids' lives. The grandma says she tried to fill that gap. She would give Colin Gray, the dad, money whenever he needed it to try and help provide for the kids. She was constantly checking in on them about school enrollment, their mental health, encouraging Colin to seek help for Colt. Right now, they're going through text messages she and Colt had about a couple weeks before the shooting, where she could tell Colt was just spiraling out of control. He made a lot of vulgar comments to her. He was accusing her of a lot of different things, and she said that she told Colin he needs professional help. He really needs to get help. His mom, Marcy Gray, on the time was on Zoloft, an anxiety medication, and Colt said to the grandma, make sure you leave that Zoloft for me. I will literally die without it. So it sounded like Colt knew he was possibly struggling with that mental health as well.
Grace, it's now day 5 in this trial. A jury out of Hall County is being bussed in and out to the Barrow County Courthouse every day. It has been a long week of, at times, a lot of times, really gut-wrenching testimony, tough to listen to testimony. How has the jury been throughout this trial, and particularly today? Are they paying close attention? Are they taking notes? How are they absorbing all of this as best as you can tell?
They're just listening, seeing what's kind of going on. The first couple of days when we had a lot of those graphic images, a lot of them were kind of looking away. They just didn't want to look at it. Understandable. It was horrific to see. Today, they seem a lot more intrigued. Obviously, we've heard a lot about the grandma's possible involvement, some of those warning signs. And this entire indictment comes down to the question of whether Colin Gray had sufficient warning that Colt could do something like this. It says, Colin Gray had all of these warning signs and still allowed Colt Gray to have access to a firearm and ammunition. So these are those warning signs that the jurors will have to decide, were they sufficient enough? What could Colin have done? What should Colin have done? And does it rise to that level of criminal responsibility? So we're getting into a lot more of the dad's involvement, and the jurors are paying close attention, because at the end of the day, it's things like this that will really make or break the case.
Our Grace King live for us outside of Barrow County Superior Court on day 5 of the trial of Colin Gray. Grace, thank you very much. We're going to turn now, shift gears to meteorologist Melissa Nord on what is a really Nice day outside, Melissa. A tough transition, but we're going to do it here because, the weather is important too.
We've got our second day in a row of record-breaking temperatures, Zach.
Like that?
We just, for the second day in a row, have broken a record. This one only 40 years old, but it was set in 1986. We are now up to 78 in Atlanta. The 1 o'clock temperature was 79. We'll see if we pop back up to 79 or get to 80 this afternoon. But man, it is a warm spring-like afternoon outside. 77 Athens, 79 in Eatonton, and in the low 70s in the North Georgia mountains. So that record now has been broken for the second day in a row. Yesterday we broke a record from 135 years ago. The warmth, though, is not lasting forever. Look at this pattern change coming in by the end of the weekend. Cold air spilling in on the backside of a coastal low. That'll drop. Let's put it this way. It feels like 80 outside this afternoon, essentially. Sunday, it's going to feel like the upper 30s outside.
Whoa, that's a big swing.
It'll feel about 40 degrees colder.
And that'll change in the span of, what, a day or so?
Yeah. So tomorrow's still feeling like maybe 70 or so, and then it really tanks off. So a cold snap, but a potent cold snap coming in for the second half of the weekend. We had showers this morning. Those are now well into southern and central Georgia. But you notice how there's a few showers lifting north up through kind of the mid-south. Louisiana, Mississippi. That's what I'm watching for this evening. 20% chance of a shower. Most of us are dry. Most of us get to enjoy a fantastic Friday evening. And we get into the overnight, and Saturday, that front draped over us produces more scattered downpours, a few thunderstorms. We'll watch central Georgia for some stronger storms tomorrow afternoon, but I think much of that's going to stay to our south, the strong activity. And then, I actually want to go back to this graphic to the very end of it because I skipped over it. Here's our showers tomorrow afternoon. Let me zoom this out. Look at this. Big coastal storm ramping up again. So this one's going to funnel in really cold air behind it, and that's why we're so cold and windy on Sunday. Some of our wind gusts could easily be 30, 35, maybe even pushing 40 miles an hour. So here's a little closer picture this evening. 20% chance of a shower this evening. Better rain chances coming in first thing tomorrow morning. We'll watch those little tiny cells. You notice they're at 10 tomorrow between Macon and LaGrange and maybe as far north as about Covington. That's what I would watch for, heavy rain, maybe a gusty wind. Much of that, though, is going to ramp up from Macon south. So I think qualifying out at Echo Park Speedway could be a little impacted first thing in the morning, but the two races in the afternoon and evening should be looking okay. Big race weekend is why I'm talking about that. We've got the Auto Trader 400 on Sunday. Pollen, highest so far this year, 557 today, fifth day so far this month in that high range. I think the allergies are why I have a headache right now.
I wasn't going to say anything because what a nerdy thing to do to be like, wow, my asthma's acting up today. But that graphic makes me feel a little empowered to say I'm feeling it.
It's the tree pollen. The tree pollen spiking up, and we can't see it a lot because the hardwoods you don't see the same way.
Because that's the stuff like the pollen that comes later in the season that'll coat your cars. That's very visible.
Yeah, and that's pine pollen, but it's so large that it gets filtered out through your nose.
Oh, so when I'm grousing about that, I'm not even right about...
It's the stuff that you touch that's not going to irritate you as much. It's the small, fine particles that your what am I trying to say? The filters in your house don't filter out as easily. So I think that's why, if you're an allergy sufferer, you may start to have the headache or the congestion today. That's the pollen.
And earlier than in a typical season, it would seem, too, because we've got this... Maybe not. This is a daily occurrence. Thank God for Melissa, who corrects me every day. So you can correct me here.
I'll just stop talking.
No. This is good. This is a team sport.
Look at the cold though, Zach. That's what I want to close.
That was
on.
a night you saved me there. Let's all look at the cold here.
20s for early next week. So that's why I just want to point out you need short sleeves and shorts now to start the weekend. You're going to need the big winter coats to finish the weekend.
So don't pack them up and put them in the attic just yet.
I wish.
Soon enough.
Maybe Florida.
Maybe Florida, that's right. You know what? We'll have real spring before you know it here. Melissa Nord, as always, we appreciate it.
Sure.
We'll see you in a little bit. All right, we're going to turn now to that developing news we started the 2 o'clock hour with. And if you have been following the news today, you have likely heard about this. We're going to bring you all the context you need right now. You're looking at a live picture outside of the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., where a majority of the justices this morning handed down a ruling that blocks the president's ability to unilaterally impose tariffs under an emergency powers law. That includes the president's so-called reciprocal tariffs that he had levied on nearly every other country in the world. His tariff agenda was a key part of the second term of the Trump presidency's economic plan, and this morning, a 6-3 majority of the justices striking down a key component of that. The court today found that the Constitution, quote, very clearly, end quote, gives Congress the power to impose taxes, and that includes tariffs. Chief Justice John Roberts, who wrote the majority opinion, went on to write, quote, the framers did not vest any part of the taxing power in the executive branch. In other words, the majority of the justices in the Supreme Court found that the Constitution gives Congress and not the executive branch, not the presidency, the ability to impose these particular types of tariffs. The president today delivered remarks just a short while ago in response to this ruling. Let's listen in to what he had to say in his first on-camera response to this ruling.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them. There's no way. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. That I can assure you.
The president went on to say in those remarks that he is going to sign an order today imposing a 10% global tariff under a different component of the federal code that he and his staff say allows him to move forward with that new imposition of a different type of tariff. It's under what's known as Section 122. Section 122 allows the president to temporarily institute a temporary import surcharge of up to 15% if he finds there are large and serious balance of payments deficits to prevent an imminent and significant depreciation of the U.S. dollar in foreign exchange markets. So a little bit of a technical component there. Section 122 requires more individualized investigation before the executive branch can impose those tariffs. The president also went on to say in those remarks that he will be not refunding companies that paid for the tariffs. This decision by the Supreme Court, a 6-3 majority with these six justices in the majority, Chief Justice John Roberts, Justices Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, part of the 6-justice majority for this opinion. 3 justices, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Brett Kavanaugh, all wrote in dissent. The president had been paying close attention to the likely release of this ruling today, and he indicated that in a number of comments over the last few days, including yesterday in these remarks to the press corps on Air Force One while he was on the way. Hang on one second here. This is in Rome? Okay. This is the president yesterday in Rome, Georgia. So he was on the ground at this point delivering these remarks ahead of the possible release of this morning's decision. This is what he had to say yesterday about his tariff agenda.
I got in trouble. No, I got in trouble with him because I said tariff is my favorite word in the whole dictionary. This or what about family? What about God? What about wife, children? I said, all right, it's my 5th favorite word. Now I'm okay. They've treated me okay since I did that. They didn't like it but it's my 5th favorite word in the dictionary. You're back, you're producing at full speed, 2 shifts a day, and he's going to 3 shifts a day, 6 days a week. And you've got a backlog now that's 7 months long. What a difference. from a couple of hours a week to 7 months long. And it's all because you finally have a president who put America first. That's what it is. But it's also because I imposed powerful 50% tariffs on foreign steel where they were coming in and dumping crap all over our country. I ended every one of the Biden-era exemptions, and on August 18th, I added new tariffs to cover 400 derivative products, including steel racks, which is what you make. So I say congratulations, and what a great comeback. This is a comeback that 2 years ago, right, you were almost, I don't want to say out of business, but you were almost out of business. I guess he said you can say it. You were close. He was borderline. Started telling his wife, let's have tuna fish tonight, darling. Forget about the steak. But stories like this companies are right now playing out in cities all around the country, towns, villages, all over the country. And to think I have to be in the United States Supreme Court for many, many months waiting for a decision on tariffs. Without tariffs, this country would be in such trouble right now. Without tariffs, this country would be like your company was 2 years ago. What a difference it made.
That was President Donald Trump in Rome, Georgia, yesterday, delivering remarks during a visit to the northwest corner of our state that came just a few weeks ahead of a special election to fill the congressional district there, that election coming up on March 10th. The president making it clear he was paying close attention to the possible release of this opinion. Fast forward to today, the court released the opinion, and a 6-3 majority struck down President Trump's ability to unilaterally impose these tariffs under his emergency powers law. The court, again, in the opinion authored by the Chief Justice John Roberts, saying, quote, the framers did not vest any part of the taxing power in the executive branch, and instead finding that the Constitution grants Congress the ability to impose these tariffs. The president decrying the result and the outcome of this 6-3 decision this morning in those remarks we just brought you a little while ago from the White House. It remains to be seen exactly how the impact of this ruling, still just a few hours old, will play out. The president has indicated that he intends to move forward with his tariff regime under different legal authorities and frameworks. That said, the solicitor, I should say, the attorney who represented the plaintiffs in this case, said today that the opinion was a, quote, complete and total victory for the challengers who brought the suit, and went on to say it is a reaffirmation of our deepest constitutional values and the idea that Congress, not any one man, controls the power to tax the American people. That was Neil Katyal, the attorney for the group that brought the challenge to these tariffs. That's his perspective. You've heard the president's perspective, and you have heard the majority of the Supreme Court's perspective. We'll continue to cover this story all day long. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Well, we are well into the Winter Olympics, and if you are a sports fan, it has been a really good couple weeks. And if you are a sports fan, particularly an American sports fan, but I suspect the rest of the world likes these too. You may be a fan of bobbleheads. If you've ever been to a ballpark, a little bobblehead night, it's always a hit. But there's a whole lot more that goes into bobbleheads than that little introduction I just gave. So we're going to bring in somebody with much more expertise. This is Phil Sklar, the co-founder and CEO of the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. Phil, thank you for joining us. What a cool job you have. This is I'm a little jealous.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, we have a museum dedicated to bobbleheads, and then we also produce bobbleheads.
And Phil, we're in the middle of the Winter Olympics right now. I understand that y'all have a big focus and a big push on elevating, I guess, bobbleheadizing some of our best Olympians right now.
That's right. Yeah, so we've been producing bobbleheads of Olympians for several years. This year we have 4 Olympians that are competing, and one of those is Georgia native Elena Myers-Taylor, who won her first gold medal and became the most decorated black athlete in the Winter Games. So we're really excited about that one. And the bobsled, we have Kaylee Humphreys bobsled, Jesse Diggins, and also the Team USA flag bearer for the opening ceremony, speed skater Aaron Jackson.
It has been such an incredible Olympiad. So many wonderful stories. And you're so right, and Elena Myers-Taylor, Georgia's homegrown, incredible Olympian at the age of 41, becoming a gold medalist at these Olympic Games, and she is competing again today in another event. Phil, how do people connect with these products and the bobbleheads? I would imagine that it's a lot more than just a token. Do you find that folks feel a real connection to the athletes and the games and the sentimentality when they pick up your product?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we're always looking for the great stories. We connected with Alana and her team shortly after the last Olympics and made her first bobblehead, and it's the only one out there. So it's a really cool way for people who have been inspired by her story. So many great elements to the story, almost quitting, and her celebration with her family afterwards, just becoming a great story and a great way to commemorate the Olympics and celebrate an amazing Olympian and amazing person.
And as we await USA Hockey today, you are honoring the 1980 Miracle on Ice team. Why do you think that so many people still connect so much with that moment of Olympic history, and it's surely top of mind as we get ready to watch the American men's hockey team take the ice again today?
Yeah, it's just one of the best sports moments of all time, commemorated with the great movie Miracle, but just that call from Al Michaels with the Do You Believe in Miracles? We have the bobbleheads of Coach Herb Brooks, we have Jack O'Callahan and goalie Jim Craig available, and also a customizable player. 1980 was the last time Team USA won a gold medal for hockey, so 2 more wins away, and the team will have another one, and the country will be able to celebrate again. But yeah, it's just one of those things that the people who were alive at the time knew exactly where they were watching along. It was just the win over Russia and then the subsequent gold medal win were just 2 amazing sports moments that weren't supposed to happen, and are one of those things that great way to commemorate with bobbleheads.
Phil, we're short on time. A last question for you. As a sports fan, as a collector, as a producer of these bobbleheads, what does it mean to you when the Olympics roll around?
Yeah, so it's an exciting time for us. We'll probably have some more Olympian bobbleheads that come as a result of these games. There were so many great stories and a couple more probably still to be written. So we're watching closely and always take fan input as well. So hopefully we'll have some more bobbleheads in the coming weeks and months.
We look forward to seeing it. Phil Sklar, co-founder and CEO of the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame Museum. Phil, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on.
And we are going to turn now to a woman who has her very own bobblehead. She is a bobsledder, and she's a gold medalist for the first time at the age of 41. Georgia's own Elena Myers-Taylor winning gold at this year's Winter Olympics. And now she is back on the track for her second event. It is happening today in the 2-person bobsled. We're going to be following along for those results. We're going to go to our Cheryl Preheim right now, who made her way to the bobsled track in Cortina. Our Cheryl Preheim brings us this story from Italy.
Hello from Cortina here at the 2026 Winter Games. I'm at the start line for bobsled. Gold medalist Alana Myers-Taylor from Douglasville, Georgia, back on the track tonight in two-woman bobsled. She is the driver and going for another medal. We've got a huge crowd here tonight, a lot of Team USA in the stands. They've already been chanting USA. And I got to tell you, it was really neat. I came up here, helped out getting Noah and Nico up the hill tonight with their teammate and stand-in nanny here, Macy. And it was so neat how many people stopped her and stopped Noah and Nico and recognizing them, knowing their mommy won gold and excited to see their family recognized in this way. So a lot of fans here for Alana Myers-Taylor, 5,000 miles from home, and she has another chance for an Olympic medal. Reporting at the 2026 Winter Games, Cheryl Preheim, 11Alive News.
You know, it's hard to not get a little emotional when you talk about sports and you talk about people who are at the pinnacle of their sport and all the work it takes to get to that point and all the people that are along with the athletes, the family, the friends, the coaches, the trainers, the neighbors. It takes all of them to do what these athletes are doing on the world stage. Alana Myers-Taylor, a gold medalist at the age of 41 years old and going for gold again today. What an incredible story. We're going to take a quick break when we think about Alana Myers-Taylor and rooting for her as we bump out with a live look of the Olympic flame in Milan as we come into the closing stretch of these Winter Games. We'll be right back. And we continue to follow major developing news right here in Georgia and around the country. You're going to be looking in a moment live on your screen inside of a Barrow County Superior Courtroom where the grandmother of accused Appalachia High School shooter Colt Gray is now on the stand. She's been testifying for some time in day 5 of the trial of Colin Gray. He is the father of the accused school shooter, and he himself faces charges in connection with the shooting, prosecutors alleging that he bears criminal responsibility for providing his son with the gun allegedly used in this shooting. It is a case of first impression. Legal experts say a Georgia jury has never heard a case of a parent charged in connection with their child's alleged school shooting. We're going to take you live into that courtroom in just a little bit We are continuing to follow as well the developments and the fallout from the Supreme Court's decision this morning in a 6-3 ruling, striking down a major component of President Donald Trump's second-term economic agenda. The majority of the justices today ruling that Congress, and not the executive branch, not the president, has the power to impose tariffs under an emergency powers law, striking down the president's ability to do so. The president has responded and decried the ruling and said that his tariff agenda will move forward under different legal authorities. We're continuing to follow the developments and the fallout of this major ruling. And we turn now to an 11Alive exclusive investigation. A Georgia veteran says he waited 8 hours in Atlanta VA emergency room before ever seeing a doctor. An 8-hour wait. He reached out to our investigative team for help. Our Savannah Levins answered that call. This is that story.
This is in Hungary. Well, I was young then.
Rick Ravan proudly served his country.
Eagle Base, Bosnia.
But when his health spiraled, he says the system meant to care for him didn't.
It feels like hell.
Rick joined the Army in 1999 and deployed overseas.
This was right after 9/11.
Today, he lives with debilitating gastrointestinal illness, sometimes so severe, he says he stops eating just to cope.
I have a chair that I put in front of the toilet with a pillow, and that's where I sleep at night.
On November 10th, Rick's VA physician sent him to the Atlanta VA Medical Center emergency room for urgent evaluation. His wife Brandy behind the wheel for the agonizing 2-hour drive from their home in Cleveland, Georgia.
He's doubled over in pain from stomach cramps.
What followed, they say, was hours of waiting with no updates.
I went up to the window, I'm like, man, we've been here 8 hours and there's no one here. And she kind of smirked at me and says, well, most people wait 8 to 9 hours.
He took photos and videos of what looked like a near-empty waiting room and conditions he says are unacceptable.
The restroom floors were absolutely filthy. The whole hospital was just dirty.
After 8 hours, they say they were finally taken back, but the problems continued.
The bed sheets were so dirty, I didn't want to lay on them. The bed had a tag on it that says, do not use broken.
Rick says the ER doctor provided Tylenol and ran some tests, then asked whether he had private insurance.
And I said, no, sir. He said, well, if you did, we'd send you somewhere else. And then he left. At that moment, I was in so much pain, I could have just laid down on the floor and died, and I think they'd have let me.
Eventually, he ripped out his own IV and walked out the front doors. 12 hours, he says, after they'd walked in. By then, it was November 11th. Veterans Day.
We got in the car and my wife cried the whole 2-hour ride home. It was absolutely, I've never been so ashamed to be somewhere and treated like I was a burden.
And they have had 12 hours to get something done.
The VA declined our multiple requests for interview for this story, but did send an emailed statement saying, quote, although staff evaluated this particular veteran within 10 minutes of his arrival, the veteran had to wait several hours for a bed to become available as we attended to more urgent patients. We're also told the VA added 5 additional beds to the emergency department the same month as Rick's visit. We reviewed the latest inspection report of the Atlanta VA hospital, published in June 2025. It flagged multiple issues, including waterline breaks that flooded the ICU, non-functioning AC units, outdated medical supplies, and outdated policies on communicating test results. Rick says he didn't get his norovirus positive results until 6 days later in a brief 11 p.m. phone call.
I says, why did you wait this long? And he's like, well, I don't know, but we just want to let you know. Good night. Hung up.
Rick's symptoms continue to persist, but he says his trust in the VA system ended that day, leading him to move on to private insurance, something many veterans can't access or afford.
I'm just done with it.
And our Savannah Levins joins us now inside of the 11Alive streaming studio. Savannah, a tough story to report.
Yeah.
I know that you now have some new information to bring us from the VA, right?
Yeah, we got some more clarification from the VA. You know, they issued that statement, obviously, but I wanted to ask about some of those specifics that Rick mentioned, like the broken bed. They said it was the handle broken, not the actual bed itself. I also asked about the test results that came in 6 to 5 days later, depending on whether you count it by when he walked into the ER or when he left. They said their standard is 1 week, so they met that standard, and also said because he left against medical advice, if he had stayed, he would have gotten the results that night, but they attributed that to the delay.
So what is next for him? What is next for his efforts to get treatment?
Well, he's on private insurance now. His wife's private insurance, obviously, it's been a huge out-of-pocket cost for them. They're seeking answers that way. It's a shame that had to come to that.
And Savannah, this is part of an ongoing, both here and around the country, there have been a number of reports indicating some challenges inside the VA system nationally. The Atlanta VA has been on the receiving end of some revealing reporting. This included. Have you gotten a sense at all, system-wide, about efforts to improve, reform, resolve some of these issues?
Well, first of all, the funding is something that's always addressed. My understanding is that the funding had recently been increased. The Atlanta VA has operated on about a $1.9 billion budget. Still, many hospital systems would say that's not that much. I guess it's all, in perspective. And this is why, Zach, I wish the VA would have gone on camera with me. They said that they've made efforts. They added those additional beds, and they say additional efforts are being made. But, I would have liked to have seen those efforts and to have been able to ask those questions. Like, where is the gap? There's no doubt in my mind that the people who work at the VA are committed to our veterans. Is the gap funding? Is the gap staffing? How do we address that? Is it recruiting from places like Emory and these other, what's the answer? But if we can't get to what's causing this kind of delay, then how do we address it?
And I'm sure you did invite them to join you for that sit-down interview.
Of course, multiple times. I asked to see the ER and for them to show us the improvements being made. So if they're watching, offer stands. I would love to see the improvements that they say they're making.
And even just that gentleman's story, a 2-hour drive from Cleveland, and then the wait, and you described, and he described the medical challenges and just the physical pain that he was in, but the emotional turmoil that he went through, and his wife too. I mean, in tears, as he described on the way back to Cleveland. Did he talk to you at all about how he is coping with that as he looks back? Yeah.
I mean, Zach, we interviewed him at 5 p.m. at night. He had starved himself all day long just to be able to sit through that interview.
So these problems are still ongoing.
Oh, yes. I mean, he got the norovirus positive test result, but he obviously believes it's something worse than that. He's had these issues for a couple years now, and they're really coming to a head. So I just really hope that he can get some answers.
Yeah. And we know, Savannah, you're going to keep on top of this.
Yeah.
As always, we appreciate it. Thanks. An important story. Savannah Levins, thank you very much.
Thanks.
We're going to go to a quick break right now. We'll be right back. When we return, we will take you live inside of the Barrow County Superior Courtroom, where day 5 of the Colin Gray trial is underway, and the grandmother, you see her right now, of accused school shooter Colt Gray is on the stand. That is coming up next. It is day 5 of the trial of Colin Gray, the father of the accused Appalachia high school shooter. Colin Gray himself charged with 29 counts, including 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Prosecutors allege that he bears criminal responsibility for providing his son with the gun allegedly used in this fatal school shooting in 2024. Colin Gray and his son have both pleaded guilty. Colin is the first of the 2 to stand trial. You're looking live inside of the courtroom where the grandmother of Colt Gray, the accused shooter, is still on the stand. Let's listen in.
You also told us that you got some forms from the school, and you gave those to Colin, and he filled them out and turned them in.
Actually, they emailed them to him.
Email, okay. And did he tell you that he had filled them out?
Yeah, he filled them out before I even left to go home.
Okay,
And
so,
I think he had gotten a response back from the therapist too.
so he had done that quickly.
Yeah, and Colt was supposed to see her on Thursday.
Okay. I just wanted to clear up, who called you to ask you to come and pick Marcy up?
Colt.
Colt, okay, not Colin?
No.
It was Colt.
No, apparently, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it was you and your husband and Marcy that came up? Oh, well,
No.
Marcy was already
Yeah,
here,
Marcy's
I'm sorry.
here, yeah.
But it was you and your husband to get
Yeah.
Marcy.
Yeah.
And when y'all came in the house, did you go to his room?
To Colt's
Colt's?
room? I thought he was in school.
Okay.
And he always kept his door shut, so I never even checked.
And where was Marcy?
Marcy was in the living room when we got there.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Marcy didn't even know that he had gone to school or had not gone to school?
Apparently not. Or if she did, she didn't say anything.
Okay. After that, when you went to pick her up, she wasn't real happy about that, was she? Did you and she talk at all after that much?
About what had
About
happened?
anything?
On the way home, not much.
And after you got home, did she discuss with you anything that Colt may have told her? Not saying what he told her, but did she discuss anything that Colt had told her?
She told me that Colt had gotten angry with her and had shoved her and had gotten his gun and pushed her with the gun.
Did she tell you that she had gotten the gun?
No.
Okay. So, but you weren't there, and that was just
No.
her statement.
That's right, both of them. I wasn't there for any of it.
Okay. And the question is, after you got back home with Marcy, did she ever discuss anything that Colt may have told her during any of the time period leading up to September the 4th?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, Your Honor. So when you bought those bullets for Colt, wasn't that with the defendant's permission?
Yeah.
Okay. And now, you said earlier that you, on the way up, after Colt had told you that, asked you, would you still love me if I did something terrible, you called Advantage Crisis in Athens. Where did you get that information about that place existing?
From Marcy.
Okay. And had she been searching for places like that?
She had found that one.
Okay.
And she said she thought it was probably the best one for him.
Okay. And why is that? What was special about this place?
Because it was in-house. They would take him immediately.
Okay.
And they would keep him whatever length of time they felt they needed to
So
figure out what was going on.
A quick warning here as we continue to listen in live inside of Day 5 of the trial of Colin Gray. Some evidence presented earlier today included coarse language. We're listening along live with you. We want to warn right now, some of that evidence with coarse language may come up again as we watch along live. With that warning, let's listen back in.
The place that you were looking for because of the inpatient activity. And then when you talked to Advantage, did they tell you, did you describe to them Colt's symptoms and his issues? And did they tell you that they would be able to help him? I'm sorry, it's just the yes thing again.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
They said Coley could just walk in the door with you.
Okay, and it didn't have to be that Saturday.
No.
It could be any day.
Yeah.
And you told Colin that he could take him at any time.
Well, I told him that Saturday was the best day for him to take him because there wasn't anybody there. I really didn't say you could take him anytime, but
Okay. But you told him
works
Saturday.
all week, so
he works during the week, so Saturday just sounded like a good idea. Okay. And you asked him to please take him that Saturday, didn't you? Okay.
I told him I didn't ask him to please. I told him I thought it would be a good idea if he did, but if he didn't, to make sure that he went to school Thursday so he could see the therapist.
Right, because the therapist at the school doesn't work if Colt's not at school.
Yeah.
When the situation that you were talking about on Cross where Colt shoved Marcy to the ground while he was holding the rifle, did Colin text you that day saying, I need you to call, I'm at work, something's happening at the house? You remember that?
He did text me that, but I don't remember if it was that day, but yeah.
Okay, so he was aware of that incident.
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember when he texted me to call him.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was that day or not.
Okay. Do you remember him telling you about the shoving down? Colin telling you about it?
No, I just remember Colt telling me.
Okay. You don't remember Colin texting you?
I don't. But
It's
that
a lot of
doesn't
stuff
mean he
happening,
didn't.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that sometimes
it
you're...
would be in my text?
Okay. Is it fair to say that sometimes your memory's not...
Yes.
Okay.
I'm 76, yes.
Is it possible that sometimes you can... I'm trying to think of the word. I'm getting older too. You confuse different issues, different times with, and sometimes put the same things at the same time that were different.
That's kind of leading. I'm 83, and I feel for it, but still.
Yes, Your Honor. We're talking to... Well, Your Honor, I do believe I'm allowed to lead a little bit when we're talking about her lack of memory and not being able to answer the questions I'm giving. I'm allowed a little bit of leeway under those circumstances.
Well, just re-ask the last, reword the last question.
Is it possible that you have issues sometimes putting two different memories together?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I can continue, I do remember Coley and I communicating that day.
Okay.
Because I remember him saying, please don't bring Charlie up here with you. That's my husband. Because he was afraid something would happen, which was a valid fear.
And that's the day that Colt shoved Marcy down?
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Just a couple of things. Take reminded me. You knew that Colt and his dad, Colin, went hunting. You knew that that Colt had killed his first deer back in, was it 23 or 24?
23, I think.
And matter of fact, they sent you a video of that. Okay. And so you knew that that his dad and Colt bonded over hunting. They did other things. They played golf, correct? But that was one thing that they bonded over, was shooting. And did Colin tell you that he would take Colt to the firing range?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is beyond the scope of rebuttal.
Well, he brought up the bullets.
It is, but I'm going to allow it. Go ahead.
That's all I had, Joe.
Okay. You should be excused.
Please, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Free to go. Yep.
Thank you.
You just watched the end of the testimony of the grandmother of Colt Gray, the accused Appalachia High School shooter. You see her stepping off the stand and walking out of the courtroom right now. The judge just dismissed her as a witness after the state and the defense finished questioning her on day 5 of the trial of Colin Gray, the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter. Colin Gray facing charges himself in connection to that fatal shooting. The trial continues. While we wait for the next witness to be called, we're going to go to a quick break. Welcome back in as we approach 3 o'clock here. I am joined now by 11Alive News senior investigative reporter Rebecca Lindstrom with an update on a story you've been following for some time, and it is on a topic that is fascinating: citizens' arrests in Georgia.
I actually get really excited when I talk about this because one of my favorite parts about the job is the ability to learn something new every day. And this is something I'll just admit, I had no idea existed, did not know it was an option. And we deal with so many people who come to us with an issue that police have just said, hey, that's a civil issue. We can't do anything about it. And there's very little that we can offer as guidance for what they do next. Until we learned about this tool, take a look.
Here's a stack. All of these were different civil cases. The charge.
Nikki Arndt says a file box full of evidence. Documents, she says, proves the guy she hired to build her house, Larry Shepard, committed a crime.
He has a really good way of making you feel comfortable, that he's capable, and that he's honest, and at the end of the day, he's none of those things.
So how much had you already paid for cabinets?
Arndt says money for her cabinets and HVAC system went missing. She believes Shepard also overcharged her for other projects to pocket the money. She calls it theft and fraud. Police see it differently.
And their supervisor was very adamant that this was a civil case where he actually was convicted.
Arndt showed police previous civil lawsuits people had filed against Shepard.
How many civil lawsuits does it take before it becomes criminal? How long can someone take advantage of people like that before they're held accountable?
While her box didn't change their minds, it did reveal another option. Police noticed one case that wasn't a lawsuit. It was a conviction in 2007 that stemmed from a citizen arrest warrant. It is a process where anyone can ask the court to do what police won't: So she did.
It's a unique process in Georgia. It's an opportunity for an individual, as you said, who believes they have been wronged to come in and have a neutral third party hear this case.
Fulton's Chief Magistrate Court Judge, Cassandra Kirk, says the process varies by county, but the basics remain the same.
The burden of proof for our citizen warrant applications is the same as it would be for the law enforcement.
Then why aren't police just doing this?
And so police budgets are tight, as are all, and so each of us is prioritizing cases, and it may be that this police department does not have the staff to handle this type of case.
11Alive News Investigates filed open records requests with 4 metro counties and found of the nearly 12,000 applications filed in the past 3 years, less than 30% ended with a warrant. In White County, where Arntz made her request, it was less than 10%. About half were closed before a hearing, often because the parties went to mediation and reached a settlement. The rest were closed by the judge, usually for insufficient evidence.
I just felt like I was in Law and Order or something, you know, like I called my witnesses, I had to ask them questions, and then Larry was able to get up and speak.
In court, Arntz's box paid off. Shepard was arrested on 3 counts of fraudulently misusing funds. We reached out to Shepard about the accusations, but in an email he said he couldn't comment. Now it is up to the district attorney's office to decide if it can prove the case to a jury.
It's scary. I hope and pray that I've provided them with enough information.
Arntz knows it's not a sure thing. Our investigation found the DA's office has only pursued indictments in roughly half of the arrest warrants issued in White County since 2023. Still hopeful, former clients of Shepard have followed her lead, getting charges or arrest warrants in Franklin and Gilmer counties, too.
One thing that I said to myself going into this was, I may not have been his first victim, but I want to be his last.
All right, so the district attorney did decide to take this case, seriously, felt that there was enough evidence there that Nikki had been able to provide, and then the research with their investigators to take this to the grand jury, and he did. And instead of just 3, they actually got 6 felony counts for the indictment. So
and the grand jury indicted. They true billed.
The grand jury true billed. 3 of them for theft by taking, 2 for conversion of payments for real property improvements. That is a offense that is specific to construction here in Georgia, and another one for identity theft. He's accused of using a name and contractor's license that he did not have permission to use, and therefore, saying, hey, I've got permission within the state of Georgia to do this, and here's my license number to do it, when there is evidence or at least an allegation that that was not actually the case.
That is a lot to unpack, and you were right. Because one of my favorite parts of the job is learning things that I did not know, and like you admitted earlier, I didn't know that this was a thing that was legal under Georgia's code. It clearly is, and we saw, 11,000, almost 12,000 people have attempted to do this.
There are a lot of cases that are abandonment. That is essentially if someone's supposed to be paying child support and they don't, then you can go after them for abandonment. That sits in this. I went through all of the cases there in White County just because it was a much more manageable number. But to look through and see just what people were filing these warrants, and it ranged from, it is a lot of family and neighbor disputes. It is things that clearly matter to those individuals that I can see why police might say, we just don't have the bandwidth to deal with this. But it might be a family member who stole all of grandma's medication and grandma doesn't have any money to go back and get that medication. Well, that's still theft, and so grandma still has the right to pursue for theft charges. But if police aren't going to do it, this is the tool where grandma goes and does it. And so again, a lot of the counties do require mediation before you can have that official hearing, and so many of these are being resolved in mediation. But for those that do go before the judge, like I said, about 30% are leading to actual arrest warrants.
And important to underscore here, too, this is in the criminal side of our justice system. This is not civil.
No.
This is criminal.
Absolutely.
A question that I had, and you and I were chatting a little bit while that story was airing, and I think it's worth talking about here now, the enforcement mechanism. This is not a situation where, like a law enforcement officer would go get a warrant sworn out and then go into the community and physically serve the warrant, put somebody in handcuffs at their house, at the shopping mall, at a parking lot, something like that. When a citizen goes and gets one of these warrants, the enforcement and service mechanism is different, right?
It can be. I mean, it is different in the sense that police are going to go before that judge, present the information. If the judge feels there's probable cause, then yes, that's the process that happens. When it's you or I who does that, there's going to be a hearing. So I have to stand before the judge, give all of my evidence just like you would in a trial. And the person accused also is invited to that hearing to defend themselves. So it really is kind of a mini trial. And then the judge decides if he or she feels that there is probable cause for that arrest. So if someone has come to defend themselves and the judge says, you know what, I think there's probable cause, they're just arrested there on the spot.
A bailiff, a sheriff's deputy
Right.
in the courtroom,
Just-
they're going to
just makes it
get
happen.
you there.
And that was indeed what happened with Larry Shepard. Now, if the person does not show up, but enough evidence is presented, then it would play out more like what you were describing, where there is a legitimate arrest warrant for the person. Depending on the type of offense would determine if that sheriff's physically going to go out and try to find that person, or if this is just going to sit on their record and the next time they run a stop sign or something like that, it shows up that there's an arrest warrant and then they get picked up. That part of it, is going to be dependent. But what I also think is really fascinating about this is if you go and you make an accusation against someone and then someone else comes, they defend themselves, the judge listens to all of that information, and if they think the person who brought the accusation also committed a crime, they too can be arrested. So this is the judge is just listening for crimes committed.
So proceed
on
if
any
you're an
party.
accuser.
Yes, and we did see
with some caution.
cases where the accuser was the one arrested.
My last question on this, and then I know we have to wrap up, but this is fascinating and something we don't see often, but obviously people are using to cap what you've just very aptly laid out for us in this kind of wonky side of our justice system. If you and I are in a dispute, you accuse me of breaking the law, you go before the judge, I skip that hearing. The judge says, yeah, you're right. Zach did break the law. This is all hypothetical.
Don't break the law.
Yeah, don't do that. But then you get a warrant sworn out for my arrest. It wouldn't be on you, the private citizen, to go and serve
no.
it. So then it goes into
Absolutely
law
not.
enforcement's database of active warrants.
Yep.
And then it's on
That's
them,
the
a
process
police
that
officer,
takes
sheriff's
over.
deputy, to go out and actually serve it.
Correct.
And I ask that only because, as you and we all know, warrant service is statistically one of the most dangerous
Yes.
elements of law enforcement. So if you're watching this and thinking, Rebecca, who's quite capable, but Rebecca would, in this scenario, be going out and actually serving the warrant, that's not quite the case.
To say citizen arrest warrant means you're going to go through a process to have law enforcement pick up and do that part of the job based off probable cause. This is not an application or permission to go out and just start handcuffing people because you think they broke the law.
But it is a way to give law enforcement the tool to do that
Yes.
if your case is one that meets the probable cause threshold.
And we've seen it go all the way to a grand jury.
Rebecca Lindstrom, we learn something new every time you visit us, and I suspect maybe some people who are watching who have some lingering issues may have their gears turning right now as well. And if you're one of those people, you can learn more Rebecca's story. It's on our website, 11Alive, and right here on 11Alive Plus. Rebecca, thank you as always. We're going to turn now. It is just after 3 o'clock on your Friday afternoon, and we are tracking a number of developing stories today. Right now, the trial of Colin Gray is in its 5th day inside of a Barrow County Superior Courtroom. You're looking at a live image from inside the courtroom right now. It is on the seal of the state of Georgia, and that is often the case when something is underway inside of the courtroom where our pool camera is instructed not to show the proceedings. And in this case, it is because the court is on a 15-minute recess. When it goes back in session, we will take you live inside of the courtroom. We are also monitoring the ramifications of a major Supreme Court ruling earlier today. In a 6-3 majority, the justices of the Supreme Court ruled that the president does not have the power to unilaterally impose tariffs under an emergency powers law, instead finding that the Constitution clearly grants the United States Congress, and not the executive branch, the power to impose those tariffs. We have reaction from the president and from Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, President Donald Trump, a Republican. You'll hear from both of them coming up shortly. And of course, we have the weather to be monitoring right now. Our Melissa Nord joins us once again on a really beautiful day, Melissa.
Record temperature day.
This is the good kind of record. This is great.
I know. Better be too hot than too cold.
Yeah,
outside.
and you know, sometimes in the summer when it's like the heat of August and y'all say, hey, we broke a record, sometimes people go, maybe that was one we didn't need to go above.
Well, the winter weather lovers will not be excited today, but they'll be excited to look ahead to the finish of the weekend. But yeah, we had another record broken today, Zach, and this morning, before the record, we had some rain showers pass through, and some of those right around the time the sun was coming up as well. This is a great photo from Decula out in Gwinnett County. Bobby Hockett. This is our weather wow moment that I'm going to show at 4 o'clock today, but I wanted to preview it because it's so pretty to see those rainbows. And it's over the school buses
too. Look at that.
I know. Well, he's over at Great Elementary School. He's one of our Weather Impact Facebook members. And look at this. We've been teetering in record territory, and we've been wobbling up and down the last couple hours. We're back to 79 again. So we were at 79 at 1. Then we dropped to 78. Now we're back to 79. So we've definitely broken our old record of 78 for the day. Now it's 81 in Covington. It would be a great day out on Lake Oconee right now as well, because it's 79 down there in Eatonton. And even Rome is at 80 degrees. So second day in a row, record-setting heat here in North Georgia. Today's record, though, from 40 years ago in 1986, we're running 20 degrees above average. And this whole week has been warm, so it's no surprise that those pollen counts have been going up as well. This is our 5th day so far this month in the high range. But 557, I mean, that's considerably higher than the last couple of days. These trees are starting to wake up a little bit with how warm things are outside. But I can assure you it's not going to stay warm. We have a red bud winter coming in by early next week. So rain showers from this morning, those are down now across the I-16 corridor, kind of near Vidalia, Statesboro, things like that. You notice in Montgomery, clouds are building back north along with some spotty showers. We'll see that lifting back into our area this evening. So there's a 20% chance there could be a shower for your Friday night plans. Most of us, though, are going to stay dry. The better rain chance comes in first thing tomorrow morning and overnight while you're sleeping. And then by midday tomorrow, those storms are ramping up again. Central and southern Georgia, not here in North Georgia. We'll see some evening showers tomorrow to round it all out. So I think we're kind of sandwiched in between some rain chances, but overall, you're going to be able to spare a lot of dry hours today and again tomorrow afternoon. Here's the forecast track showing some of those showers building back in by tomorrow morning. They will be locally heavy with embedded thunderstorms, but most of that heavier activity is not just south of I-20, it's south of our area altogether. So a little bit of activity around tomorrow morning. Look at the dry skies tomorrow afternoon, and then the front comes in tomorrow evening. That's one last push of rain. And meanwhile, the winds are ramping up as colder air spills in. What we get in the form of showers tomorrow ends up going up the East Coast and bombing out. I like to say bombogenesis. It strengthens rapidly, big coastal storm there. And that's going to pull down colder air behind this nice, warm, spring-like day. So we'll be around 70 again tomorrow, and then by the end of the weekend, your feels-like temperature on Sunday afternoon is going to be like upper 30s. So a big difference is coming for the second half of the weekend, but in the meantime, record heat for the second day in a row. Kids are, a lot of kids are out on break, and the ones that didn't travel to a warm place, I think, have been just really happy to play outside this week. Neighborhoods have been pretty loud. Kids have been excited to be outside in February for a full 5 days. So
shoot, I'm excited. I'm driving into work. I got my windows down.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's funny when the first kind of wave of nice warm weather hits in the spring or fake spring.
Yeah.
You walk outside and you go, wow, you know what? I feel pretty good. Maybe I was just a little gloomy because it was dark and cold for the winter.
It's an antidepressant.
It feels, it's just nice. Turns out the sun, being outside. Mm-hmm. It goes a long way.
Yeah.
Melissa, can I ask you one last question? Our
Sure.
producer's going to look at me like, come on, hurry up. But I do want to ask this last question briefly. You talk about the meteorological term bombogenesis.
Yes.
At the risk of me getting another meteorological term wrong, so everyone brace yourselves, that to me, I've heard in connection to winter weather opportunities. I know not here,
Yes.
but some of our friends up further north on the East Coast,
Yeah.
are they getting ready for potentially another round of some winter, I don't want to use
They
the
are.
S word, but precipitation?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And it's so interesting because some of these places just haven't been able to melt the snow yet. New York City, all the snow's turning
DC
brown
has
and
been
nasty.
struggling with this as well.
DC has been struggling, yes, so there could be some more snow coming. Models are not in great agreement even today on the snow amounts. Yesterday it was funny, the American model was going like 35 inches for DC and the European model went an inch.
That's a
How much snow are you going
35
to
to
see?
1. That's a big
1
swing.
to 35 inches of snow, between 1 inch and 3 feet. But hopefully, now that it's becoming within high res model solution guidance, that they'll get a little better idea.
Well, boy, that gives us something to think about. And thankfully, not something that we need to be worried about
No.
here. Wishing luck to all of our friends up on the East Coast, including the meteorologists who have to parse out that.
You
3-foot
wonder
span.
why Topper's losing hair. Topper is my old chief in D.C. It's just a joke. Zach and I both used to work at our sister station in Washington, D.C., WSA 9. So, Topper, sorry. I was just giving a joke.
The chief meteorologist, Topper Shutt, who
Pulling
has
your hair
seen quite a number of snowstorms and is still rocking and rolling. On that note, good luck, Topper. Melissa, we'll see you in a little bit. All right, we are going to turn now and bring you back up to speed on a story we've been following throughout the day and throughout the week. And since 2024, that is the fallout of the Appalachia High School shooting. Killed 4 people, injured 9 others. The father of the accused high school shooter is now on trial in connection to that shooting. Both he and his son are facing charges. Colin Gray, the father, is the first of the pair to stand trial. It is day 5 of his trial today inside of a Barrow County Superior Courtroom. That is where our Grace King has been all day long. She joins us now live. Grace, what is the update here? We checked in with you about an hour ago. What has the jury been hearing since we last spoke?
Well, Colt's grandma testified for most of the morning, and she just wrapped up in about the last half hour or so talking about, the Gray family's home life, the struggles they had, and how she tried to intervene and help. We heard from her for quite a while this afternoon, but she finished up on the stand. She says that in the weeks leading up to the shooting, Colt was kind of on this downward spiral. She says she kept telling Colin that he needs professional help. They kept reaching out, and that she got a really, really concerning text from him just 2-3 weeks before the shooting. Take a listen to what she had to say.
If I do something terrible, would you still love me? I think that's the way it was worded. I asked him why he would say that, later. And I said, why would you think that I wouldn't love you? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, why would you think about doing something terrible? And he said, I don't know, I was just asking.
Okay.
And of course, my first thought was suicide.
Yeah, I can see that.
I went back up there, and in a conversation we had a day or 2 later,
Okay.
we were going to McDonald's to get food, and I can't even remember how the conversation started, but he asked me if I knew Nick Cruz, and I looked at him and I said, I've never heard of him. I didn't know who he was. And he looked at me and he said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. He said, well, have you heard of the Parkland school shooting? I said, absolutely. I read all about it, but I don't remember who did it. And he said, Nicholas Cruz did.
And that grandma, she called around to mental health facilities to see where could get him in. She said that she called Advantage Behavioral Health in Athens, but they said that a parent would have to drop him off. She suggested to Colin that they bring him in ASAP. It was possibly on Saturday when they typically were a little bit slower. GBI investigators also testified this morning that from the entryway of Colt's door, when you looked in, there was about a 4-foot-tall shrine to Nicholas Cruz, that Parkland shooter. On his wall, they had newspaper clippings and photographs of Nicholas Cruz, something they obviously thought was concerning.
In Grace, the prosecution here, as legal experts and yourself have detailed, trying to make the case to the jury that Colin Gray had sufficient warning that something bad may happen, and despite knowing that, still provided the firearm to his son that was allegedly used to commit this school shooting. What is the defense saying during these proceedings?
Well, Zach, the key phrase you use there is sufficient warning, and jurors will have to decide what is or isn't sufficient warning. So, of course, we heard the grandma saying that she had all these mental health concerns. She had these conversations with Colt Gray about the Parkland shooter, about his possibly if I did something terrible. The defense is saying, okay, but did you tell Colin? Did Colin know that? I know you knew that, but you're not his legal guardian. What did Colin know? So they've really been asking some of those follow-up questions. The grandma says, this happened 2 years ago. She wasn't 100% sure what she had or hadn't told Colin in those conversations. She said they had talked about his mental health, but she didn't know if she had passed along, say, Colt's odd questions about the Parkland shooter or the terrible things. So they're just trying to figure out what Colin knew, how much Colin knew, and when. Because again, this entire indictment is based on that sufficient warning phrase. Even if there were all these things happening, if Colin didn't actually know about them, it would be hard to bring the criminal case. So the state is presenting his case witness by witness to show all of the warning signs, but the defense is trying to say, jurors, look closely, which warning signs could be considered sufficient.
And that is going to be the crux of this case that is now on its 5th day, expected to take several weeks. Our Grace King is going to be there for every one of them. Grace, thank you very much. We are going to turn now. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Welcome back in. Today is National Caregivers Day, and new data from AARP and the National Alliance for Caregiving shows a nearly 50% increase, nearly a 50% increase in family caregivers since 2015. We're joined now by Tina Boggs, who is a local caregiver. Tina, we appreciate your time. We appreciate the work that you do. Let's start here. Why this rise in family caregivers?
Well, Zach, thank you for having me today. With the baby boomers and just the aging population, we're definitely seeing a rise in, people who are turning unexpectedly into caregivers for a family loved one. It's about 1 in 4 individuals find themselves having to care for someone.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Tina. A question for you, a follow-up. When we talk about this rise in family caregiving, what does it mean for those who are in need of and are receiving the care? And also, what does it mean for the family members who are providing that care?
Well, sometimes it's a pretty impactful and unexpected situation. It can be very stressful. It can be financially impactful. it's something that no one can really plan for unless you have taken the time to put those things in place through your financial planning. And it can be very stressful when you're trying to take care of your own family, trying to keep up your own jobs, and then also worrying about a loved one. It can be very stressful and can impact your own health as well. So lots of different factors that can take place.
What advice would you give to those caregivers who, as you have very rightly pointed out, are juggling so much?
Yeah, I think if you have someone, it could be someone that's obviously declining in your or age, getting older in your family, or it could be even some folks can find themselves being a caregiver unexpectedly. So I think it's just making sure that you're planning appropriately. I think you got to make sure that if you do find yourself in a situation where you're starting to have to provide care for someone, that you make sure you pay attention to your stressors. And as things start to build and you start to have that overwhelming feeling, that you're making sure that you're reaching out and you're getting a support system around you, reaching out to different agencies like ours with Seniors Helping Seniors, where we can come out and at least take some of those things off your plate to help you get a moment to just relax and to be able to get that break that you need to stay healthy and to look after yourself, because none of us can really care for someone else if we're not able to take care of ourselves as well through that journey. So, yeah.
And does it help too, Tina, to just be able to talk with other folks who are going through the same thing that you are, if you are in that position where you're caring for a loved one?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things here at Seniors Helping Seniors that we like to do is we like to help families kind of prepare. And we like to let them know what all the resources are that's available to them. Because again, sometimes people are navigating this for the first time and they're just not really sure where to turn or what to do or who to reach out for help for. So that's part of the program here with my agency, is that we like to make sure that we're providing you that assistance to help you navigate that. And then we even do support groups here. Sometimes people are fighting dementia and they are navigating that process, as you can imagine, is overwhelming. So just finding those support groups and people that are going through it. And, we always like to ask the question, if this happens, then what? So that we can help give you some tactical ways of handling and dealing with that to keep your loved one happy and
All right, Tina Boggs, local caregiver with Seniors Helping Seniors, joining us today on National Caregivers Day. Tina, thank you so much for your perspective and your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to go to a quick break right now. We will be right back after this. We have some breaking news to deliver right now for you. According to a statement from the Rick Jackson campaign for governor and a federal court document just obtained in the 11Alive newsroom, a federal judge has just granted from the bench a temporary restraining order that will prohibit, at least for now, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who is also a Republican candidate for governor, from using his leadership committee funds in his ongoing campaign for governor. I want to read you a few statements, and then we're going to give you some background on how we got here and what this all means. I'm going to start with this. This is the note from Rick Jackson's campaign team saying today, we're going to read their quote here. This is from Dave Abrams, a spokesman from Rick Jackson. Quote, "A federal court today made clear that Burt Jones doesn't get his own rule book. Burt's already used his office to enrich his family, so it won't be a surprise if he tries to use it to cling to power. If he pushes a new law to try to save himself, that's blatant abuse of power, and Georgians will hold him accountable." That statement continues. Burt Jones's campaign quickly responding with a campaign statement of their own from spokesperson Kayla Lott saying this, quote, "We're not surprised. Rick Jackson is taking a page from Stacey Abrams' playbook using lawfare to target President Trump's endorsed candidate for governor. Georgia Republicans have already rejected that strategy, and they will reject it again." According to minutes of the court proceeding today in federal court that the 11Alive newsroom has obtained, the judge in this case, federal district judge Thomas Thrash, issued the temporary restraining order in response to a motion from Rick Jackson seeking the court, asking the court to block Burt Jones's ability to use his leadership committee. So you might be asking, what is a leadership committee? It is a special kind of fundraising vehicle available to only some of Georgia's politicians, including the governor, the lieutenant governor, and some other legislative leaders. In this governor's race, that includes Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, Attorney General Chris Carr, and now the latest entrant, Rick Jackson. Only Burt Jones, the lieutenant governor, has access to those leadership committee funds, and the leadership committee allows candidates to raise unlimited amounts of money. Chris Carr and Brad Raffensperger had both previously tried to block Burt Jones's ability to use the leadership committee. Federal judges did not agree with both of their efforts to block it. But today, on a third attempt by one of these candidates, this one coming from Rick Jackson, a federal judge has granted a temporary restraining order blocking Burt Jones's ability to use leadership committee funds. And according to a release from the Jackson campaign, this TRO, the temporary restraining order, will prohibit the leadership committee from spending further money and will require it to cancel reserved media buys. This again is according to the campaign of Rick Jackson. You heard Burt Jones's response. As we understand it, that decision was announced from the bench today, and a written order will be issued in the coming days. But according to court documents we've obtained, that TRO has indeed been granted. You can expect much more litigation on this in the coming days and weeks, and you can expect a great deal of focus on it from all of these campaigns, because we are only a few months away from primary day in this increasingly heated GOP race to become Georgia's next governor. And first, to do that, one of them has to get the Republican nomination to move on to the general election. Rick Jackson, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, Attorney General Chris Carr, and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, all seeking that nomination. And now the fundraising game and the fund spending game has been altered by a temporary restraining order granted today by a federal district judge here in Atlanta. We will have much more on this as it continues to unfold. I think right now, Reams, let's go to Joshua. Right now, we're going to turn, as we continue to monitor the latest developments in the governor's race, we also continue to monitor the ongoing proceedings inside of a Barrow County Superior Courtroom, where the trial of Colin Gray, the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter, continues as we monitor a live signal from inside the courtroom. You see it on your screen right now. We're going to bring in Joshua Schiffer, practicing attorney and a legal expert. Joshua, you have been with us before. We're glad to have you back on. As you have been following along with the proceedings this week and the last couple days, what has stood out to you from inside the courtroom?
Well, the professionalism and the level of discourse and decorum that we're seeing is reflective of the seriousness of this case and how well prepared not just the court is, but all of the litigators. This has been an extraordinarily professionally presented matter. And that's because, as important as the facts of this specific case are, it's the impact this case is having on national conversations that the larger audience is watching. In discussing this case, the predicate case that really was the first in the nation to use this theory of third-party responsibility, criminalizing the duties of firearms owners out of Michigan, the Crumbly case. Now we're here. The nation's Second Amendment infrastructure is very much watching this, as well as the standard criminal defense universe, because this represents an expansion and extension of state prosecutorial abilities and discretion. Our local county prosecutors, district attorneys, are the highest constitutional officer in the county and are responsible for determining what gets prosecuted under state law. This effort is novel but important because it's holding Colin Gray, apparently or allegedly responsible for the actions of that third-party child, using Colin Gray's constitutionally owned firearm. And so we've got a number of varying responses that sometimes are a little bit untraditional. I have people that are very conservative, supporting more progressive positions, and vice versa. That's what makes this case so unique and important. The first week has been very professional, and we kind of saw that from Judge Prim initially setting aside a couple of weeks for voir dire or jury selection, and they finished it by Wednesday last week and then had 2 days to litigate some other pretrial matters. This week, we have not seen pounding of fists. We've not seen yelling and screaming and raised emotions other than the emotions of loss and sorrow. The state has done an exceptional job using this first week to set up the picture, to paint what happened on that day when Colt Gray allegedly appeared at the school and committed this horrific crime. We haven't heard the specific linking and argumentative responsibility duty argument from the state against Colin Gray, but what we have seen, especially capped off by today's testimony of Grandma, we have seen numerous opportunities and examples where third parties such as law enforcement, schools, family members told Colin Gray, hey man, there's something wrong. You need to do something. We're waving the red flag. Do something. And we all know that he didn't. And that's the real key question this district attorney's office is asking the jury. Is not doing anything illegal. They feel that it was because of how much notice Colin Gray received, his lack of action, and then the ensuing massacre.
And Joshua, and not to cut you off, but a question here for you, because the prosecution, as you've aptly laid out, is trying to make this case that Colin Gray had sufficient warning that something bad would happen. And despite having that warning, still provided his son the firearm that was allegedly used in this shooting. The defense, I am sure, and as we have seen through some of their cross-examination, is attempting to poke holes in that theory, making the argument, correct, that perhaps, in their view, Colin Gray did not have sufficient warning. He had some warning, but it doesn't rise to the level of something that would trigger criminal responsibility.
Yeah, that's absolutely been the effort of Mr. Hobbs and Mr. Barry, who are two of the finest lawyers the defense has in the state of Georgia. They are literally legends in the criminal defense universe. And you've seen very specifically how those holes are getting poked. because the state needs a jury to say that Colin Gray was given so much warning and so much notice, he had to have acted. And a failure to act would for anybody cause a crime, because that's what the jury is charged with. As the state put out at the very beginning of their opening on Monday, this isn't a case about what Colt Gray did. It's not. This is a case about what Colin Gray did. And more importantly, what he didn't do, his restraint in failing to act in a reasonable way to protect other people. And that's how the logical connection with the cruelty to children, which then leads to the murder, which is necessary in order for the Georgia courts to sustain a conviction. Because we all know, regardless of what the trial court does, this case is going to be appealed one way or another. It's too important to the state, and it's obviously very important to the Gray family.
Josh, I want to circle back to something you mentioned a little bit earlier in one of your answers. You brought up the Second Amendment component of this case and this conversation. The Second Amendment, the constitutional protection of an American's right to bear arms. This is a case that is about a school shooting. It is a case about the father providing son with a firearm allegedly used in that shooting. But I want to ask you, how much of the actual legal arguments in the courtroom are focused on the gun versus how much are they focused on a parent's potential responsibility? In other words, if the question was that the parent knew that their child was a dangerous driver and provided them the keys to the car, now we're talking about a vehicle as opposed to a firearm, is it really about Second Amendment or is it about this negligence theory?
That is the conversation that the defense really wants the jury to have. And in setting out the rules and pathways the state and the defense are going to ask the jury to ascribe to, making this into a political case or not making this into a political case, that's a defining issue. The state understands that the Second Amendment is kind of kryptonite with juries. You can't predict what a typical or assumed juror is going to believe when it comes to the Second Amendment. There are very strong opinions when it comes to constitutional issues, including some really counterintuitive positions held by people who firmly believe that, nope, if there is any mention of a firearm, it's going to violate the Constitution. And then, of course, you've got many people urging nationally for changes in our Second Amendment and gun control regime. Those issues are a wild card in any jury room. You don't know how juries are going to have their own dynamic because each jury is absolutely unique because of the personalities involved. And you can't predict. Every good lawyer has lost juries and won juries that they shouldn't have because of those unique dynamics. So the state wants to keep this away from being a Second Amendment issue due to the volatility. The state wants to make this a personal accountability, rational discussion, where if you have something horrifically dangerous and you are the last and best person to prevent that very dangerous item from being used by someone you have been told is dangerous, that needs to be a crime. And that is outside the crimes that we've previously considered. But again, this jury, most of these jurors have probably never sat on a jury before. They've never been exposed to the criminal justice process this intimately. So they may not even realize quite the depths of what they are being asked to probe. The defense wants this to be an argument about guns. The defense wants to cleave 1, 2, 4, 5, 7 jury members out of the herd and make them sit down and fight and say the only reason we're here is because of what the kid did and because this is gun related, so let's not convict the dad. And we're going to hear that expressed in multiple different formats throughout this presentation of the defense's case, as well as through the remaining examination of the state. We're going to see a lot of issues coming from the defense, like you said, about poking through the knowledge and notice that the state is relying on. Colin Gray can only be held responsible based on what he knew. If the state has over-curated their belief involving notice, that could really flow against the state. It could make it look like this is a setup, that this is selective prosecution, where this would have never been a case outside of the unique circumstances which developed. A lot of the discussion outside of court centers on the fact of how this incident would play out in the speaker's community. And I have people that live in urban areas, rural areas, suburban areas, and really, many people are shocked at how the initial police-citizen encounters went because they're not used to that kind of police relationship. Many people are focusing on what the obligations of the school should have been because this child was, for lack of a better term, run out of schools and was a known substantial concern of school members. But what did the school do? Well, that gets into the discussion about school immunity. And the fact is that since schools are impossible to sue in Georgia, they are literally protected by a constitution, there's no market incentive for schools to take the appropriate proactive actions to protect their kids. Because they know,
and that, Joshua, that would be a point that likely some would raise in the courtroom. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, I'm sure Georgia school systems would push back on that claim. But you're getting at something I want to tease out and ask you about a little more from a legal analysis perspective. As you watch these proceedings, we're now 5 days into the testimony at this point. Is it going to play out in your expectation on some level that the state is, with every piece of evidence introduced, with every witness, trying to narrow the scope of the focus of the jury down to a relationship of responsibility between the father and the son, and the defense will be doing all it can to widen the scope, to point to all of the other people, adults, institutions that were in this young person's life who perhaps also had some warning that there were some troubling signs and also did not, perhaps, the defense would argue, do enough to prevent the ultimate outcome.
Yeah, the defense certainly has that almost apportionment argument of, listen, Dad made some terrible choices. I get it, but it wasn't just Dad. It takes a village. We can't just criminalize Dad because raising kids is hard. And where's Mom? And where's the other family members? And where's the other rest of the... That is a logical connection that some people are going to struggle with when it does take a whole community of people to notice the behavior issues with Colt Gray. And then absolutely they're going to question, well, why didn't somebody else do something? Now, we all know that parents are parents and parents get to raise their kids. And certainly parents don't like other groups, individuals, certainly the government, coming in and telling them how to raise their kids. So you've also got that issue with how should a citizen react when a government agent reporting from other government agencies advises you about your child. While many people would welcome that kind of input, some people would automatically be cynical and suspicious because it comes from a government source, and they view the interference of the government in their private lives to be very offensive. And that's a delicate line that the state has to walk in showing that, hey, if we're going to make Mr. Gray criminally responsible for his son's actions, what do we need to prove to satisfy the jury that the community did enough, put him on enough notice, had told him enough times, man, your kid's going to be a problem, you need to do something about it. And that's a gray area. There's not a bright line rule of, well, after 4 letters, you're now on notice. Nope, that doesn't exist.
And Joshua, in the legal system, when we talk about negligence, which from a layman's perspective at least is sort of a core component of this conversation, negligence tends to play a more frequent role in the civil side of our justice system and in tort law. Here we're talking about the criminal justice system, and the criminal code has a little bit of a wariness, generally speaking, for criminalizing the conduct of another. In other words, blaming one person criminally for the conduct of another person, right?
Well, the vast majority of criminal charges require something called the mens rea or intent. You have to choose to take an action. Now, that action, is it criminal or not? That's the question in criminal law, whereas you're right, negligence doesn't have that intentional portion. You don't mean to cause a car accident. It happened due to your negligence. And criminal negligence is traditionally disfavored, as well as, like you aptly put out, we don't like holding people responsible for what third parties do. If we're going to do that, we need a specific statute in order to allow that, such as conspiracy or RICO. There are laws very specifically written that would then add co-defendants, co-conspirators to an original claim. Here, that's not happening. We don't see Colt Gray charged in conjunction as a co-defendant with his father. No, Colt Gray's trial is completely separate and distinct. It will be held after his mental health evaluation comes back sometime later this year. But Colin Gray's trial is completely independent of that. The negligence is interesting because when it comes to the appeal of this case, that's certainly going to be one of the parts the defense is going to lean into, is how the mens rea requirement for criminal prosecutions has been satisfied, or whether it was necessary to be satisfied under this particular state theory, traveling under the cruelty to children. And we'll have to see, man. Smart people are going to spend a lot of time poring over precedents, poring over prior arguments, showing the court how the courts previously treated these kinds of issues in an effort to get them to firm that up when this case reaches appeal.
A case with a lot of thorny legal issues, issues of first impression in front of a Georgia judge and jury, and at the heart of it all, a terrible tragedy, the killing of 4 people and injuring of 9 others at Appalachia High School. Joshua Schiffer, we always appreciate your perspective, your analysis. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you again, I am sure, as this trial continues. Joshua, thanks.
Thanks so much, Zach. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and thank you for covering this. These are the kinds of cases that really move our state forward, and it's incredibly important we as a community are educated about how this system operates. So I really appreciate you bringing your journalism and integrity to exploring this process.
We appreciate it, Joshua. Thank you. And we will continue to follow this case gavel to gavel right here on 11Alive and on 11Alive Plus. I want to take you now to another story that we have been following, developing today with nationwide and globe-wide ramifications. The United States Supreme Court this morning, in a 6-3 opinion, focused on President Donald Trump's imposition of tariffs under an emergency powers law, and those tariffs included his so-called reciprocal tariffs that were levied on nearly every other country in the world. Their status was before the justices today, and a majority of them today ruled that those tariffs are unlawful. The Chief Justice, John Roberts, writing for the majority of the court, that, quote, the framers did not vest any part of the taxing power in the executive branch, instead finding that the Constitution grants the power to impose tariffs to the Congress, not the president. The tariff regime was a key, and is still a key component of President Donald Trump's second-term economic agenda. The president responding to the court's ruling this morning with these remarks from the White House.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. When you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them. There's no way. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. That I can assure you.
That was President Donald Trump from the White House responding to the court's 6-3 judgment this morning. President Trump, of course, a Republican. Other leaders, political leaders in the country, weighing in on the court's ruling today as well, including the Democrat, Senator Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, saying this today.
Donald Trump's speech is just like his tariffs. Erratic, disorganized, based on fiction. He just does not understand what Americans are going through. Congress has the ultimate authority to impose these tariffs. I am urging, for the sake of American families, pleading with my Republican colleagues to buck Donald Trump and not allow him to impose these tariffs on the American people.
That is Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York. You've now heard from a Democratic leader. You heard from the president, a Republican. You've heard from the United States Supreme Court. Close with this, other important context, and it is continuing to be filled in, the next chapter in this tariff story. Today, the president saying that he will sign an order imposing a 10% global tariff under a different section of federal law that he and his staff argue give him the authority to continue his tariff regime in a different format. That imposition we are watching for today. The president also saying he will not refund companies that paid for tariffs. These are all developments just in the last few hours following the court's major decision striking down the president's power under an emergency powers law to unilaterally impose these tariffs that were a key component of President Donald Trump's second term agenda. You've been following along all of these developments with us for the last 2 hours. We will continue to track it all as we get ready for 11Alive News at 4 o'clock. I'm going to take a quick break here, make my way over to Studio A, and we'll see you there in just a few minutes.
Breaking right now at 4 o'clock, a hotel at Atlantic Station evacuated over power outages and clean water concerns. What we're learning about ongoing repairs.
Plus, the Supreme Court striking down some of President Donald Trump's tariffs. Local business owners are now wondering if they'll get that money back.
Plus, second day in a row of record heat in North Georgia. But how long will fake spring last? I'm tracking the return of frigid cold temperatures.
And the Olympic Games putting a spotlight on Cortina, where athletes are competing against a beautiful backdrop. We'll show you everything the mountain town has to offer.
And we begin with that breaking news. A hotel at Atlantic Station now forced to evacuate.
That's right. This is all happening at 12 Midtown. Atlanta Fire says that there's a power issue at that hotel. And there are concerns about clean water as well. We are told that Georgia Power is working to fix this issue right now, and building management is working to help people find other accommodations. But this is the same building where just yesterday we spoke to a woman who said she had been without power for nearly a week at her condo. She says that so far she's not been told to evacuate, but we'll keep you updated as we learn more about this issue. Well, let's get to our top story today. A major decision from the U.S. Supreme Court striking down some of President Donald Trump's tariffs. Zach, we know that you've been following this all afternoon over on 11Alive Plus.
We have, and this has been a story that just continues to develop. Obviously, the decision in the morning and then all of the responses to it. And obviously, this is a big blow to what was a key component and remains a key component of President Donald Trump's second-term economic agenda. You're taking a live look right now at the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., where justices ruled this morning that the president exceeded his constitutional authority, imposing sweeping tariffs using a law reserved for a national emergency. President Trump decried the decision today and essentially said, this is not over.
Other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives, great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money, and we'll be a lot stronger for it.
And we want to get you over right now to NBC's Alice Barr to explain a little more about the context of this decision and to break down the president's options.
Hi there. In a rare break with President Trump, the Supreme Court today striking a blow to his signature global tariffs strategy. The justice is ruling he does not have the authority to impose sweeping tariffs on imports through the law he's been using that's designed for use during a national emergency. The ruling stems from a couple small businesses filing suit, arguing that tariffs on imports from China specifically are so high as to effectively make it impossible to get what they need for their businesses. And now one big question is whether the Trump administration is going to have to pay back all these American companies that have been paying the extra duties when they bring materials in from other countries. The Treasury Secretary has said in the past that if the government were to lose, it would have to issue refunds for about half the tariff revenue it's collected. That would mean repayments to the tune of roughly $130 billion. The president has long argued and underscored in a speech just last night that his tariffs are a common sense way to boost the economy, level the playing field with trading partners, and encourage more production here on U.S. soil. Administration officials have also said they have other options to level tariffs aside from the Emergency Powers Act the Supreme Court has now rejected. But while they weigh their options there, this is a statement from this conservative-leaning Supreme Court that's handed a number of victories to President Trump that they believe there are some limits on his presidential power. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And today, 11Alive's Chase Howell spoke to a local toy store about the court's decision that comes just a day after President Trump visited Northwest Georgia, where tariffs came up more than once.
While Trump was in Rome Thursday touting his widespread tariffs.
Tariffs, what would you do? You know what? Everybody would be bankrupt, everybody. The whole country would be bankrupt.
The United States Supreme Court was getting ready to hand down a ruling that would take away some of his power to impose them on Friday.
We pay it, we move on.
That's been Joe Novak's motto over the last year of having to pay tariffs. Inside his Buckhead store, Kazoo Toys products from all around the world.
Sadly, I would say almost 90% of our product is brought in, mostly from China. Those 30% are difficult to manage.
Needless to say, Novak is relieved most of the sweeping tariffs are gone, especially because he was eating some of the costs so customers wouldn't have to.
It'd be great if somehow that money could be sent back to either us, maybe the consumers, the people that have spent that money. Maybe it's in a tax rebate for everyone because we've all been spending additional money in the last year or so. Am I counting on that? No.
But tariffs or not, Novak says he'll always do what's best for his customers. In Buckhead, Chase Howell, 11Alive News.
If you were wondering when we will see those tariffs that were struck down actually removed, the Supreme Court says it's got to happen immediately.
And as all this was happening today, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp joined other governors from all over the country for a meeting at the White House. They met with the president and cabinet officials for breakfast. Now, reporters, they were not allowed to stay for the remarks. In that meeting, it comes just before the National Association of Governors dinner is set to happen tomorrow night.
Well, let's turn it over now to meteorologist Melissa Nord on a really, really nice day out there, Melissa.
It is absolutely stunning.
It is, and you know what? It's going to be the second day in a row that we've now broken a record here in Atlanta. Outside right now, we're looking at sunshine over North Georgia, and those temperatures have made it all the way to 79 degrees across the area, breaking our old record for the day. Look at the winds, northwesterly winds. Humidity's dropped a little bit since this morning, so it feels fantastic outside. The old record from 1986 of 78 degrees is now in the past. We are running 20 degrees above our average high this time of year. And across North Georgia, a couple spots have hit 80 degrees. We're still sitting at 81 from Covington over to Eatonton. It's currently 79 in Athens. Big picture, you can see more clouds, though, starting to build back in along this kind of slowly moving boundary across central Alabama. We'll see those clouds building back in here this evening. So although you've seen a lot of sunshine the last couple of hours, clouds will build back in as we approach sunset this evening. As we go past sunset, 20% chance of a stray shower for any Friday night plans that you have. Watch the rain coverage, though, increasing tomorrow morning. We could have some pockets of heavy rainfall, even a few isolated thunderstorms. So we're not done with the rain chance quite yet. Tracking through Saturday morning, more scattered showers, stray thunderstorm possible. Early tomorrow, you might need the rain gear. This evening, though, nice and mild outside. Sunshine right now, increasing clouds the next few hours. Temperatures hold in the 70s past sunset, then fall to the 60s later on this evening. We'll take a look. Big pattern change coming in. We trade record warmth for bitter cold again. We'll talk about when we'll be back in the icebox ahead.
Well, jurors in the Appalachia High School shooting trial, they are wrapping up the week hearing crucial testimony from the grandmother of the accused gunman here, Colt Gray. And while Colt is still waiting for his day in court, his dad, Colin, is on trial right now. Prosecutors are trying to prove that he is criminally responsible for what happened that day. Marissa Sarback joining us at the courthouse. Marissa, you've been tracking this case since this trial. You've been there since the trial started this week. What did we learn today?
Well, Faith, court just adjourned a couple of minutes ago, but on the stand today, the most lengthy testimony we certainly heard was Colt's grandmother, also Colin Gray's mother-in-law. So we heard from her. She discussed many conversations that she had with Colt Gray, really giving us some backstory into this, telling us at one point that she actually heard from Colt himself say that he believed he had mania and schizophrenia. Now, we also heard from a GBI special agent today taking the stand who showed photos of the Gray house in Barrow County, where agents collected evidence the day of the school shooting. Included in those photos, pictures and newspaper clippings about the Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz, clearly displayed in Colt's room. The court was also shown photos of unlocked guns and loose ammunition all around the home. Colt's grandma also sharing multiple concerning conversations she had with him over the years leading up to that shooting.
Did Colt talk to you about a Christmas present he had gotten?
Sure.
Okay, and what was that Christmas present?
It was a gun.
Okay, and was it a rifle?
Yes.
Okay. Who did you get the Christmas present from?
From his dad.
At this point, would it be safe to say that Colt's mental and emotional health is kind of spiraling?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm sorry, just yes or no?
Yes, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. It's okay. And even before this, had he routinely had violent outbursts?
Yes.
Okay. And you and Colin had actually spoken about Colt's mental health?
Mm-hmm.
And again, yes? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. It's okay. It happens to everybody. Did you talk to Colin about Colt needing professional help for
We
this?
did talk about it.
Okay. At some point during that conversation, does he ask you a question that disturbs you?
Yes.
And what was that question?
If I do something terrible, would you still love me?
The prosecution's intent with this line of questioning is to show not only the relationship and conversation here between Colt and his grandmother, but also to connect the dots and prove that Colin Gray was aware of these conversations. Again, court has adjourned for the day, but is expected to restart again Monday morning at 9 o'clock. We'll be expecting Marcy Gray, Colt's mother, to take the stand. Live at Barrow County Court, Marissa Sarbach, 11Alive News.
Learning so much coming out of trial. Marissa, thank you so much for staying on top of it for us. We will continue to bring live coverage every day of this trial on 11Alive Plus.
Now to this, a former church leader in Cobb County now has pleaded guilty to child sex crimes. Prosecutors say 34-year-old Marcus Turner molested a teenager who attended his youth group in 2023. He held a leadership role with Worship with Wonders. The case was handled in Cherokee County, where a judge sentenced Turner to 25 years in prison without parole. A Metro Atlanta Police Department now partnering with ICE, what the 287G program could mean for Marietta.
And later, we are taking you to Cortina, the stunning backdrop for some of the Winter Olympics' most intense competitions. And at 411, we want to help you out on your commute. You're taking a live look here at 400 South, just before Sidney Marcus Boulevard. Traffic moving smoothly on both sides. You're watching 11Alive News at 4. We'll be right back. Well, today we confirmed that Marietta Police now among the police departments participating in 287G.
Now, this is a program that allows ICE enforcement and removal operations to partner with state and local law enforcement agencies. The Marietta Police Department saying it signed the agreement before the end of 2025, and it officially went into effect last month. So far, the police department says it has not made any immigration-related arrests since that time. The police department also saying it currently has one officer participating in the program. Here in Georgia, most of those agencies participating in the program are sheriff's departments. Morrow Police and Social Circle Police also participate in 287G. Under a measure the state legislature passed in 2024, local law enforcement agencies are required to enter memorandums of understanding with federal agencies to enforce federal immigration laws. They risk losing state funding if they don't cooperate.
Well, right now, friends, students, and colleagues, they are still in shock following the death of a teacher in Savannah. This is Dr. Linda Davis, was killed in a crash on Monday. Well, federal officials say that the person accused of hitting her was running away from ICE agents. Julian Sheehan attended a vigil for Dr. Davis and shares more from the community.
Her personality in general is a very happy, jovial person. She loved to smile, and that smile was very contagious.
Mourners gathered steps away from the site where Dr. Davis passed Monday. Faith leaders from various religions and denominations led the crowd in prayer. They prayed for Dr. Linda Davis, her loved ones, as well as the immigrant community in Savannah.
That when we come together, we can survive and even thrive in the midst of misunderstanding, in the midst of tragic and almost unexplainable accidents.
Dr. Davis was a special education teacher at Hess K-8 school in Savannah. She had previously worked at Brock Elementary School. Selena Ruth Gillens says Dr. Davis was a one-of-a-kind teacher who had a true passion for children and education.
Her energy was amazing. She is a true advocate for children, and it was her desire to make each of them feel extremely special in her classroom.
Chatham County Police say Davis was on her way to work when she was killed. Dr. Tanya Howard Hall says Hess was Linda's happy place.
She was actually on her way to her happy place, a place where she could be with children that loved her, a place where the administrators and the staff all respected her.
Faculty at Hess Elementary told students about Dr. Davis's passing Tuesday. Principal Alana McMullen says the process has been heartbreaking.
To see the looks on their faces, it broke my heart. To see their tears and their cries, because they really did care about her and they knew that she cared about them. Our students loved her.
And we do know that the mayor of Savannah has questioned whether it was necessary for ICE to chase that suspect. The driver, Oscar Vasquez Lopez, is charged with vehicular homicide and driving without a license, and DHS says that he is in the country illegally.
We are looking at a big weekend at Echo Park Speedway here in North Georgia. We've got the big race happening, the Auditorium 400 on Sunday, and you can see a mix of clouds and sunshine out there right now. Temperatures have been hot today. We made it all the way up to about 80 degrees there in Hampton, and it's 79 right now in Atlanta. So the second day in a row, breaking a daily record high temperature here in the capital of the Peach State. And you can see the month of February, the last 2 weeks have been unseasonably warm outside. But we're almost at the end of the road of that. We've got one more mild day tomorrow, and then watch this pattern change coming in. Cold air driving down into North Georgia, so that'll send our high temperatures back about 15 degrees below average, as opposed to 15 to 20 degrees above average by the second half of the weekend. Here are the numbers. We hit the upper 70s the last 2 days. Tomorrow, upper 60s. Some of us are still around 70 degrees. Then 40s for Sunday, mid-40s for Monday, and then finally rebounding into the 60s by the middle of next week. But a cold snap coming in and a big shock to the system considering how warm it's been like outside the last couple of days. Now, before we get the cold air in here, we've got one more wave of some showers and a few isolated storms coming in. You can see we've got to our south this stalled out boundary, a few showers and clouds lifting to the north. That's where we're seeing the clouds build back in this evening. Overnight, tomorrow morning, a few more of those downpours and thunderstorms coming in. And then as we get into Sunday, we see the rain clearing out. This weather system pulls off the East Coast. As it's working northward, it's rapidly strengthening, and that's going to be pushing in colder, windy conditions behind that developing low. So while they track a strengthening cyclone off the mid-Atlantic and northeast, we're going to track a blustery cold finish to the weekend. Forecast track hour by hour. Clouds building back in this evening. Nice evening overall, but a 20% chance of a stray shower, especially past 8 o'clock this evening. Most of the rain, though, comes in after midnight tonight. You can see 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, some scattered downpours, couple thunderstorms possible in the mix as well. We'll start off in the 50s tomorrow. 9 a.m., still some of those scattered downpours and thunderstorms. And then after lunchtime, they clear to the south. We have a decent afternoon. One last push of some rain coming in around midnight tomorrow night, and then Sunday. See those wake-up temperatures a lot colder outside. So your Saturday starts in the 50s. Rain chances taper off. Mostly cloudy in the afternoon with a high of 69 degrees. By Sunday, look at the afternoon. 20 degrees colder, feeling like the 30s. So if you're headed to that Auto Trader 400, going to be a cold one. Bundle up, especially if you're in the stands with a little elevation, adding to that wind factor outside. Some of our wind gusts on Sunday could be easily 30, 35 miles an hour. We'll go down to the 20s, hard freeze area wide Monday and Tuesday morning, then back up the roller coaster to the 60s for highs the middle of the week. Today's weather on Moment, pretty rainbow this morning as the rain was moving in. This photo from Bobby Hockett in Decula. If you have a great photo of sunset this evening, we'd love for you to become tomorrow's Weather Wow Moment. You can post that in our 11Alive Weather Impact Facebook group and join the conversation.
See you in a moment. We turn now to the Winter Olympics and a bit of a tough day on the bobsled track for Metro Atlanta native Alana Myers-Taylor as she competes in the two-woman bobsled event today at the Winter Olympics in Milan Cortina. She and Jaden O'Brien, they're in 12th place going into the final two runs tomorrow with their Team USA teammates in 3rd and 5th place. The bobsled venue is in Cortina, with the town getting a major boost from these Olympic Games.
Growing up in Cortina,
I'm born in Cortina, raised in Cortina.
Giacomo Colli says his family has seen how the Olympics changed this mountain town.
The first Olympics here in Cortina really changed the lives of people from Cortina.
70 years ago, Cortina hosted the 1956 Olympics, the first to be broadcast on TV worldwide.
70 years after the first Olympic in Italy, the first Olympic broadcasted around the world.
It put Cortina and its beautiful mountains in the spotlight, boosting tourism for decades after.
New ski slopes, new infrastructures, new hotels, and really Cortina for a couple of days became the center of the world.
Something residents hope will happen again with these Winter Olympics.
With the Milano Cortina 2026 Olympics, they're really pushing again.
Women's alpine ski racing is being held on Cortina's famous downhill course.
This is the finish area of the World Cup Alpine Ladies, the most iconic events on the ladies calendar on the World Cup circuit.
That's the last curve of the bobsled track.
Italy has built a new bobsled track and updated the 1956 Olympic opening ceremony stadium for curling.
2026 Olympics, they're renovating it, building new changing rooms, and making it more accessible for wheelchair people.
In town, nearly a dozen new hotels have been built for these games.
Creating new infrastructures, new facilities, and attracting more interest from all over the world.
All things Giacomo hopes will help Cortina strike gold again during these Winter Olympics.
A great opportunity for Cortina having the Olympics back again.
And what a Winter Games it has been. Remember, you can keep up with all of Cheryl's adventures at the Milan Cortina Olympic Games. It's right here on 11Alive Plus.
Hey, coming up next year at 4, for some families, a home makeover means more than just a fresh start. How this nonprofit is delivering safety and a peace of mind, one room at a time. Hey, welcome back. Well, a bathroom might not seem like a life-changing space for most people, but for families raising a child with significant disabilities, that one room can determine whether daily life feels manageable or overwhelming. Caitlin Ross shows us how one nonprofit is transforming homes, restoring independence.
Sunshine on a Rainy Day doesn't just renovate homes. They step into the hardest part of a family's routine and rebuild them. For 19-year-old Adrian, this moment is more than a reveal. It's relief. It's independence. It's a space built just for him. Born extremely premature during Hurricane Katrina, Adrian has faced challenge after challenge. His mom, Cynthia, has been through his side through all of it, lifting him, carrying him, doing whatever it takes to keep him safe. But something as simple as bath time had become exhausting and dangerous. Now, thanks to Sunshine on a Rainy Day, that's changed. His new bedroom and fully accessible bathroom were designed around him, his needs, and his personality.
I don't have to worry about dropping him or both of us falling. So just the fact that everything is confined within the bathroom and is safe is the best thing ever.
This isn't just construction, it's custom dignity.
We just want to make people's lives better.
You know how easy you have things sometimes, and sometimes we don't put ourselves in other people's situations, and how their lives with a special needs kid can be a lot more difficult than I think a lot of people realize, and we just are trying to make it easy for them.
Sunshine on a Rainy Day partners with donors and volunteers to complete these life-changing renovations at no cost to families.
Beyond grateful. This is amazing, and I pray every day.
They accept applications from families all over Georgia. So if you want to apply or donate, we put all of that information on our website, 11alive.com.
Absolutely love seeing that, especially when the community comes together, rallies around a family who you could just say, you know what, figure it out.
You know, you heard it there in that story. It's something we see so many times in these stories that Caitlin shares with us, the love and support of a family. And then in turn, when others, the neighbors, the community rally around and show love for them, it is a really special thing.
You got to treat people the way you want to be treated.
You do, and the way people deserve to be treated too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Melissa.
All right, second day in a row, record-setting temperatures. The temps are not the only thing that are running high. Pollen is as well. But we are not done with winter altogether. I'll tell you when that bite will come back in the air. That's ahead next.
Right now, we are staying on top of breaking news in Atlantic Station, where a hotel is being evacuated. What we know about power outages and water issues.
And Georgia lawmakers debating guns once again. This time, they want to nail down when a shooting should be considered self-defense.
Plus, temperatures in record territory today for the second day in a row, but I'm tracking more rain on the way, followed by a big cool down.
And big changes are coming for those of you who take MARTA to the airport. What you need to know about the new fare system and how it could affect your travel plans. And we start here. We are still following that breaking news out of Midtown where Atlanta Fire is telling people to evacuate a hotel.
We know that this is happening at 12 Midtown. This is an Atlantic Station. And Atlanta Fire says that there is a power issue at the hotel. There are concerns about clean water as well. And we're told that Georgia Power, they're working to fix this issue right now. And building management is working to help people find other accommodations. But this is the same building where just yesterday we did speak to a woman who said she had been without power for nearly a week at her condo there. She says so far she has not been told to evacuate. Within the last 30 minutes, we did hear from Georgia Power, which shared this statement, reading in part. We understand how difficult this has been for residents. Our systems are fully operational and we are able to serve the building. This outage does not stem from any issues with equipment owned or managed by Georgia Power. The statement goes on to say that the power can only be restored once the landlord completes repairs and confirms the building can receive power from the utility company. So a lot happening there. We'll keep you all posted on that. Let's get to this new this afternoon. Atlanta police releasing new video of officers rescuing a 1-year-old child.
Yeah, they say the baby was kidnapped by the mother's ex-boyfriend who broke into her home. You're looking now. This is new body camera video of that incident. It happened back on January 30th. You see officers talking to the mother, whose face is blurred there, who tells them her ex broke in through the kitchen window. You then see officers pull up to the suspect a short time later, and he takes off, leaving the child on the ground. That baby was safely reunited with their mother. Officers chased down and arrested the suspect, who is now facing multiple charges, including kidnapping and child cruelty.
Well, Sandy Springs police have shut down a massage business after an investigation into an alleged prostitution and human trafficking taking place there. Officers say many women were arrested. And Ariana Maniz is reporting from Paleotherapy on Cliftonwood Road, one of those businesses that was shut down.
A close sign now sits on the front of Paleotherapy. It's one of the massage parlors that Sandy Springs police say they served a search warrant after their no operation safe haven. Sandy Springs police said their investigation started after they received numerous complaints about possible prostitution and human sex trafficking. Now, these are the photos and images from Operation No Safe Haven, which led to Sandy Springs police shutting down the massage businesses. Authorities say they executed search warrants at 2 spas. As a result of their investigation, 4 businesses were shut down. Police say this is part of their ongoing effort to combat human and sex trafficking in the community with assistance from federal partners, including HSI, ICE, and the FBI. Here are the businesses that were closed immediately by police: Jade Spa, Massage Springs, Paleotherapy, and Pearl Massage. 3 are located along Roswell Road, 1 here on Cliffwood Drive. Police say 2 women were arrested and charged with house of ill fame and solicitation for an illicit sexual act. A 3rd was charged with solicitation for an illicit sexual act. Sandy Springs police are encouraging anyone with any further information into this investigation to contact them directly. You can also submit an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers. Reporting from Sandy Springs, I'm Ariana Maniz for 11Alive.
Well, now to this. A Cobb County judge sentenced a man to life in prison after he pleaded guilty in the killing of a Georgia college student. Well, back in May of 2024, Cobb County officers found 21-year-old Alasia Franklin shot multiple times outside a Kennesaw State University housing complex there on the campus. She was a nursing student and a rising junior at KSU. Well, police say her ex-boyfriend, Samuel Harris, shot her and then left her out in the street. He pleaded guilty yesterday to charges of malice murder, tampering with evidence, and more. And we did speak to Franklin's mother at the time of her daughter's death. She told us she hoped her daughter's story could raise awareness about domestic violence and safety on and around college campuses.
We're going to turn now to our meteorologist, Melissa Nord, who gets the great job today to talk about some really nice weather that everybody is experiencing. It's like a fall spring we get right now. What a treat.
It absolutely is a little treat outside. We've got sunshine. Temperatures are in the upper 70s right now over North Georgia. You can see that sunshine in the background. And now for the second day in a row, we're seeing record temperatures here in Atlanta. 79 still. We've been kind of bouncing between 78 and 79 all afternoon. A couple spots are at 80 degrees. Savor it. This is the last day of temperatures running about 20 degrees above average. They will be colder by the second half of the weekend. But today's high of 79 breaks the old record from 40 years ago in 1986. What I'm tracking, though, by tomorrow morning is the return of more showers and even some isolated thunderstorms to North Georgia. We've been dry all afternoon, a couple clouds building back in. We could see about a 20% chance of a shower this evening. But as this front lifts back to the north, that'll send more rain in our direction, especially after midnight through the first half of the day tomorrow. Now, with that being said, what I expect to move in is scattered in nature. Not everybody is going to see the rain. Watch the forecast track. Clouds increasing this evening, 20% chance of a shower as you're out and about. Most of that's coming in after midnight. Scattered downpours and isolated thunderstorms first thing tomorrow morning. So in the meantime, this evening, pretty nice out there. Temperatures in the 70s for now, 60s later on if you're out all the way through midnight tonight. Big shock to the system coming the second half of the weekend. I'll talk about the return of the cold and how many below freezing mornings we could see. That's ahead.
Thank you, Melissa. We look forward to that. As we turn now to a heads up for anybody who rides MARTA to the airport. A new fare gate system is going to be installed next month at Airport Station. That means all fare gates will be closed for construction from March 2nd through the 28th. MARTA says you should use the station's emergency doors to the west curb and enter and exit the airport through the north or south terminal doors. You will not need to pay at Airport Station during this time. Instead, you can pay your fare at the station where you start your trip or at your destination.
Hey, still ahead here on 11Alive Plus. When she needed it most, a Metro Atlanta coach found connection in ice hockey. How her teams are helping her through her hardest battle she's ever faced.
And we are looking live right now on the Buford Spring Connector and Armored Drive. Things moving all right on your Friday afternoon as we head into rush hour. A little slowdown on the bridge there. Hope that picks up. You're watching 11Alive News at 4. We'll be right back.
Let's head out to Milan right now for a live look from the Winter Games. You can see it's evening there. Beautiful look at the town of Milan. And this Winter Games is a very special one for the U.S. women's hockey team because, as we all know, they won their third gold medal yesterday in overtime, a very exciting game against Canada. And right here in Metro Atlanta, women are flocking to community hockey for a healthy competition and a way to connect.
It is just one of so many great stories around these incredible Winter Games. For Diana Chang, a coach for one of the local hockey squads right here in Metro Atlanta, the sport is an escape and a place of healing. Here's 11Alive's Joe Ripley.
If they're loose, you can't skate. You have to make sure that they're nice and snug.
As Diana Chang laces up,
very tight so that your boot gives you support.
She looks at life with a grateful heart, with a fiery passion that's led to the ice.
I grew up playing, especially with the boys. We started playing street hockey and roller hockey. You know, the lights would go up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and we'd be there till 10 o'clock playing.
Chang moved south to get her PhD. She found the Lady Thrashers, an all-female community hockey team, through a Google search, and things just clicked.
They ended up needing some coaches with some experience, and they were looking for women coaches in particular to be able to support other women in this sport.
Chang would soon need that support herself. A few checks on the boards could not compete with the ultimate gut check. In March 2022, doctors diagnosed Chang with breast cancer.
You know, hockey is a very interesting sport in terms of your lasting friendships. They were there to support me through it. I got phone calls, I've got cards, I got flowers, I've got, you know, meals delivered to the house.
In her most challenging time,
they're literally, my hockey family is my second family.
Chang had surgery in April and was back on the ice in a matter of months. Within a year, she was competing in the USA Hockey Women's National Championships. So now, as Chang checks on form and runs point at practice, she still holds the same passion, looking at life through the lens of hockey with a grateful heart.
It would be a very, very difficult life without this sport.
And Diana continues to coach and play hockey. She's currently on 3 teams in the Atlanta area. What a remarkable story.
I absolutely love it. And I love the excitement that people get around. You see it even in the Summer Olympics and in the Winter Olympics. Kids, adults, I want to try that. That looks like fun. And here she is on 3 teams.
You know, and
Diana.
that's the thing.
Wow.
Sport is for everybody, right? Whether you are an Olympian at the top of your game, competing right now in Italy, or you're somebody with a PhD, making time to play on 3 teams and share that community. And you see how it rallies around you. Her team rallying around her when she was undergoing some treatment and on the other side and doing great.
Really, really feels good. Melissa, I just love these stories. We love the Olympics.
We do love the Olympics. We also love the warm weather that's been outside, but that is not going to last for long. I'm tracking the return of some winter cold to North Georgia. I'll talk about that in your forecast next.
Welcome back. This afternoon, we are now learning more about plans to honor the late civil rights activist and icon, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
That's right. His memorial service will now expand beyond Chicago to events in Washington, D.C. and South Carolina. Reverend Jackson, he died this week at 84 after battling a rare neurological disorder. He will lie in repose at the Chicago headquarters of the Rainbow Push Coalition next week, followed by services March 1st through 4th in Washington, D.C. and South Carolina, where Jackson was born and raised. A public celebration of life that will take place on March 6th at the House of Hope Church in Chicago with a private live stream homegoing service the next day.
And new at 4, some Georgia lawmakers want to make it easier for people with guns to claim they are using them in self-defense.
And as Doug Richards reports, critics say their bill would make it too easy.
At the Georgia Capitol, many lawmakers view guns as defensive weapons, protected by the Constitution. A House bill seeks to make the legal presumption of defense even easier.
It's not about letting murderers go, but it's about protecting those that's protecting themselves or others.
A Middle Georgia sheriff was talking up a House bill which backers say would bring Georgia in line with 18 other states. The bill's language says law enforcement should not arrest a person for using or threatening to use force unless a probable cause determination shows it was unlawful.
It makes it look like if you're the aggressor, you can now claim self-defense.
But critics of the bill told a House committee it would broaden gun rights too much.
We can solve your problem without undoing the entire self-defense code.
We don't want to pin in our law enforcement. We want them to be able to look at cases and look at the evidence, right? And this would put an extra burden on our law enforcement.
Backers of the bill outnumbered critics on the committee, sending it to the full House for a possible vote. At the Capitol, Doug Richards, 11Alive News.
Okay, sunshine over North Georgia, some high-level clouds building in, but this has been the second day in a row of a record-shattering heat. That's a live look at all the activity by Echo Park Speedway. Big race weekend out there. The whole race weekend not going to be as warm and bright and sunny outside as what things are like on this Friday evening. Here are the numbers, though. Just got the climate reports in the last 15 minutes. All 4 of these climate sites in North and Central Georgia have broken record high temperatures today. Atlanta, we made it all the way to 80 degrees. Athens, 80 degrees. Columbus, 80 degrees. That's a new record. And Macon breaking their old record, getting up to 81 degrees this afternoon. So 2 days in a row, record-setting heat. Today's high broke a record from 40 years ago in 1986. The warmth only lasting a little bit longer. Big pattern shift coming in. We are going to see the return of cold temperatures to North Georgia starting at the second half of the weekend. Tomorrow's still mild. It's not as record heat as we're talking today as warm, but we're still going to be above average by about 10 degrees to the upper 60s. And then by Sunday, there's a 20-degree drop in those high temperatures. It will feel like the 30s on Sunday afternoon. Actual highs just shy of 50 degrees in the afternoon. Mid-40s for Monday, and then by middle of next week, we are bouncing back above average. So a cold snap coming in, a potent but a short-lived cold snap on the way. Sunshine this afternoon, helping us to get up into those upper 70s. Now the clouds are starting to build back in a little bit along the I-85 corridor south of Atlanta. There's a 20% chance of a shower this evening as this boundary is stalled and moving and lifting back into North Georgia. You can see forecast track pinpointing those few spotty showers. We'll see scattered showers, isolated storms tomorrow morning. We're dry in the afternoon. Few more showers Saturday around midnight heading into Sunday morning, and then the cold air follows. Cold and windy conditions for Sunday as this low ramps up off the East Coast and it rapidly deepens. That strengthens the winds and puts us kind of in a wind tunnel effect here in North Georgia. So Sunday afternoon, some of those wind gusts could be on the order of 30 to 40 miles an hour. A little closer hour by hour, clouds filtering back in this evening. It's in the 60s, 70s through sunset. Pretty nice for any outdoor plans. I'm not going to rule out a stray shower. That rain chance about 20%, so keep that in mind. But most of your Friday evening feels very springy, borderline summer-like outside. We'll go through the overnight. Scattered showers build back in, couple pockets of heavy rain and embedded thunderstorms. Those will last through tomorrow morning. But as we get towards lunchtime, all that activity is pushing south of I-20 down into central Georgia, and then it moves through southern Georgia in the afternoon. So we have another dry afternoon tomorrow after some early morning rain. Notice at midnight tomorrow night, that's the last push of rain coming in, and then the cold air spills in for the second half of the weekend. So you'll need that big winter coat by Sunday afternoon. Tomorrow, though, still pretty mild, not quite shorts weather outside, but at least maybe short sleeves. Starting with those rain chances in the morning, topping out upper 60s in the afternoon. Big Auto Trader 400 on Sunday. Wind chills will be in the 30s for that, with some of those wind gusts 35 miles an hour or so. Look at those 20s for morning lows Monday and Tuesday. Then we're back in the mid 60s for high temperatures for the rest of the week.
New tonight, our partners at the Atlanta Business Chronicle now reporting updates on layoffs for two big companies. The first is Lowe's. Dozens of Georgia-based employees are set to lose their jobs as part of a mass round of job cuts. The home improvement store says it plans to lay off 600 workers nationwide. Those layoffs are expected by April 19th. Nearly half of the positions are remote. And UPS is shutting down an Atlanta facility as it also looks to scale back. Court filings show the company will shutter its facility on Marvin Miller Drive. This is all part of a plan to close 22 locations across multiple states for the company and cut as many as 30,000 jobs.
Coming up here, a Georgia veteran says that he waited 8 hours to see a doctor before giving up and walking out of Atlanta's VA's emergency room. 11Alive News is investigating his long wait and how the VA is responsive. Well, a Georgia veteran says that he waited 8 hours to see a doctor in the Atlanta VA emergency room. He reached out to our Investigates team for help here, and Savannah Levins has a story you'll only see right here on 11Alive.
This is and hungry. Well, I was young then.
Rick Ravan proudly served his country.
Eagle Base.
Yeah, that's
Bosnia.
But when his health spiraled, he says the system meant to care for him didn't.
It feels like hell.
Rick joined the Army in 1999 and deployed overseas.
This was right after 9/11.
Today, he lives with debilitating gastrointestinal illness, sometimes so severe, he says he stops eating just to cope.
I have a chair that I put in front of the toilet with a pillow, and that's where I sleep at night.
On November 10th, Rick's VA physician sent him to the Atlanta VA Medical Center emergency room for urgent evaluation. His wife Brandy behind the wheel for the agonizing 2-hour drive from their home in Cleveland, Georgia.
He's doubled over in pain from stomach cramp.
What followed, they say, was hours of waiting with no updates.
I went up to the window. I'm like, man, we've been here 8 hours and there's no one here. And she kind of smirked at me and says, well, most people wait 8 to 9 hours.
He took photos and videos of what looked like a near-empty waiting room and conditions he says are unacceptable.
The restroom floors were absolutely filthy. The whole hospital was just dirty.
After 8 hours, they say they were finally taken back, but the problems continued.
The bed sheets were so dirty, I didn't want to lay on them. The bed had a tag on it that says, do not use broken.
Rick says the ER doctor provided Tylenol and ran some tests, then asked whether he had private insurance.
And I said, no, sir. He said, well, if you did, we'd send you somewhere else. And then he left. At that moment, I was in so much pain, I could have just laid down on the floor and died, and I think they'd have let me.
Eventually, he ripped out his own IV and walked out the front doors. 12 hours, he says, after they'd walked in. By then, it was November 11th. Veterans Day.
We got in the car and my wife cried the whole 2-hour ride home. It was absolutely, I've never been so ashamed to be somewhere and treated like I was a burden.
And they have had 12 hours to get something done.
The VA declined our multiple requests for interview for this story, but did send an emailed statement saying, quote, although staff evaluated this particular veteran within 10 minutes of his arrival, the veteran had to wait several hours for a bed to become available as we attended to more urgent patients. We're also told the VA added 5 additional beds to the emergency department the same month as Rick's visit. We reviewed the latest inspection report of the Atlanta VA hospital, published in June 2025. It flagged multiple issues, including waterline breaks that flooded the ICU, non-functioning AC units, outdated medical supplies, and outdated policies on communicating test results. Rick says he didn't get his norovirus positive results until 6 days later in a brief 11 p.m. phone call.
I says, why did you wait this long? And he's like, well, I don't know, but we just want to let you know. Good night. Hung up.
Rick's symptoms continue to persist, but he says his trust in the VA system ended that day, leading him to move on to private insurance, something many veterans can't access or afford.
I'm just done with it.
A little more information here regarding that broken tag on the bed. The Atlanta VA says that the handle was broken, not the bed itself. And as for the delayed test results, the VA says its directive is notification within 7 days. They also say he could have gotten these results sooner if he hadn't left the hospital against medical advice.
Coming up on 11Alive News at 5, the Paulding County Sheriff's Office set to hold a news conference any moment now, announcing the resolution of what they are describing as a high-profile cold case. We'll find out more very soon. You are watching 11Alive Plus.
Hello, check, check, check.
It's okay. It happens to everybody.
Thank you.
So why does my VA
Hi,
talk about
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep, I got you. Yes, I am. The airport camera is down. Thank you.
Tonight at 5, we are staying on top of breaking news. A hotel at Atlantic Station evacuated over power outages and clean water concerns. What we are learning about ongoing repairs.
And we broke a record high today, but we are tracking really big weather changes that include cold air. Have all the details on what you need to know and look at that 7-day forecast.
And a major setback for President Donald Trump, the Supreme Court striking down key tariffs ruling he overstepped his authority. We have reaction from local businesses. But we start tonight at 5 o'clock with breaking news. Thank you so much for streaming with us here on 11Alive Plus. I'm Faith Jesse.
And I'm Zach Merchant. We are waiting right now to hear from the Paulding County Sheriff's Office about new developments in a cold case. They have not released much information right now, only saying it is a high-profile case. You're looking at a live feed from inside that room where that press conference is set to begin at any moment.
And when it does, we will bring it live to you. And until it does, we will continue with our headlines.
As we await that, we are following more breaking news out of Atlanta. A hotel at Atlantic Station forced to evacuate.
That's right, and we do know it's happening at 12 Midtown in Atlantic Station. Atlanta Fire says that there is a power issue at the hotel, and there's also some concerns about the clean water there. We're told Georgia Power is working to fix this issue, and building management is working to help people find other accommodations. But this is the same building where just yesterday we spoke to a woman who said she had been without power for nearly a week at her condo.
We paying $500, $800 a month HOA fees. Somebody should have stepped in. They went and got generators for the first floor. They had enough money in those accounts to get generators for every floor that was on there and give us service.
Yeah, the woman tells us so far she has not been told to evacuate, but within the last 30 minutes, we did hear from Georgia Power, which shared a statement reading in part. We understand how difficult this has been for residents. Our systems are fully operational and we are able to serve the building. This outage does not stem from any issues with equipment owned or managed by Georgia Power. The statement goes on to say that the power can only be restored once the landlord completes repairs and confirms that the building can receive that power from the utility company. We will stay on top of this for you and bring you updates as we get them. A big headline today, just hours ago, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that President Donald Trump exceeded his authority when imposing sweeping tariffs using a law reserved for a national emergency.
This all stems from a couple of small businesses filing suit, arguing that the tariffs on imports from China specifically were in violation of the law. The owners say tariffs are so high it is impossible to get what they need for their businesses. One big question now is whether the Trump administration is going to have to pay back all of these American companies that have been paying the extra money when they bring materials in from other countries. In the past, the Treasury Secretary has said if the government were to lose in court, it would have to issue refunds for about $130 billion. President Donald Trump says he has other options to level tariffs besides the Emergency Powers Act.
But other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives, great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money and we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so.
And today, 11Alive's Chase Howell, he spoke to a local toy store about this Supreme Court decision just a day after President Trump's visit to North Georgia, where tariffs came up more than once.
While Trump was in Rome Thursday touting his widespread tariffs.
Tariffs, what would you do? You know what? Everybody would be bankrupt, everybody. The whole country would be bankrupt.
The United States Supreme Court was getting ready to hand down a ruling that would take away some of his power to impose them on Friday.
We pay it, we move on.
That's been Joe Novak's motto over the last year of having to pay tariffs. Inside his Buckhead store, Kazoo Toys, products from all around the world.
Sadly, I would say almost 90% of our product is brought in, mostly from China.
And we are cutting into that story right now to take you now live to the Paulding County Sheriff's Office, where they are delivering an update on what they describe as a high-profile cold case. Let's listen in.
We will take questions at the end of this news conference. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sheriff Ashley Hinson. Sheriff.
Good afternoon, Paulding County. Good afternoon to our community. My name is Ashley Hinson. I am the Sheriff of Paulding County. And today is a day that I've been waiting on personally for 8.5 years, as many of you have in the community. Today is the day that we provide our community and the family of Heather Turner with a resolution in her death investigation. One of the promises that I ran on in 2024 was providing a resolution to the death investigation of Heather Turner, and today it happens. Another was the creation of a cold case unit, and that is exactly what we've done. And as a result of that creation, we have a resolution in her death investigation. We'll talk more about that cold case unit here in a moment. This case has been perpetuated by myths, by inaccuracies, by falsities, and today we clear every single one of those up. You're going to hear the facts as they occurred on May the 4th, 2017. And that's one of the things that has not changed throughout the entirety of this incident. The facts have remained the same, and today our citizens will learn the facts. Today we're going to be providing an overview into what happened that day. We are going to be talking about the incident, what happened that day, and all the situations involved with that incident, and why it took as long as it took. Today, once we are done, you will understand the facts of what happened on May the 4th, 2017. Why has it taken so long to get here? Well, I can answer for 13 months of that. I began being the sheriff in Paulding County on January 1st of 2025, as I stated earlier. Since that time, we created a cold case unit, which has been dedicated to working on Heather's case as well as several other old cold cases. So I want to talk about some of the partners that got us to where we are today. Certainly the men and women of the Paulding County Sheriff's Office. I can't tell you how voluminous this case is. There are volumes after volumes after volumes of case files on this case. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, not only their special agents, but the Office of the Medical Examiner, their forensic pathologists. The GBI has been a fantastic partner since nearly the beginning of this investigation. Our District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Lane, since he came into office, he and I have been talking about this case. When I got elected, one of the first things I told him was, we've got to get to work on the Turner case. And he was committed and we were committed. And as a result of that partnership, we have the resolution today. And then finally, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED. They are essentially the state investigative agency for South Carolina, and we'll talk about what their involvement was in this case. And many of the podcasters and the folks online have said, well, why don't you get the FBI to get involved? Well, guess what? I asked them. This is not in the purview of the FBI. So I want to talk about our cold case unit and how we got to where we are today. Captain Mike Hill, who has over 28 years of experience in law enforcement, leads our cold case unit. You're going to hear from him first in just a moment. Next, you're going to hear from retired Sergeant Eddie Herman of the Cobb County Police Department with over 40 years of law enforcement experience. Eddie came in with an unbiased approach about the entirety of this incident. He had no knowledge of what took place, and he came in and looked at the case. Lieutenant Pat Banks, who works with the Sheriff's Office, who is over our intelligence unit, looked at this case. He's got over 40 years of law enforcement experience. He had no knowledge of this case either. So with Lieutenant Banks and Mr. Herman coming together, they were able to look at this case and dive into it and look at every single piece of evidence, every single page in the report, and everything that involves this case. We're going to let you hear from them in just a moment. But next, I think it's important to note why we're here. We're here because of the death of Heather Turner. Heather was a wife, she was a mother, and she was a daughter. And she was a friend to many. And she was 35 years old when she died. And today, we're going to talk about the day that Heather died. So I want to walk you through a timeline of events that took place on May the 4th, 2017. These are accurate facts. These are not things that you might have seen on the internet. Maybe you heard them here or there. These are the facts of the case as they have never been described before. And before I begin, I want to make sure that everyone knows that when I took office, we pledged to have a level of transparency never seen before, and this is part of that pledge. So let's talk about the timeline of events from May the 4th, 2017. So 4 calls were made to the parents of Andy Turner beginning at 5:57 a.m. on May the 4th, 2017. At 5:59 a.m. and 11 seconds, Andy Turner made contact with his parents, who lived about 5 to 6 miles away. At 5:59 and 47 seconds a.m., Andy Turner calls 911 and speaks with an operator who ultimately instructs him to begin CPR. At 6:10 a.m., Andy states on the 911 call he needs to turn off the shower so he can hear. At 6:11, Andy's parents are heard on the 911 call. At 6:13 a.m., the first deputy arrives on scene at the Turner residence. At 6:16 a.m., fire rescue arrives on the scene. At 6:19 a.m., the coroner was requested to respond to the scene. And at 6:56 a.m., the coroner arrives on scene. At 7:25 a.m., Andy Turner signs a consent to search of the residence. And at 7:30 a.m., a crime scene unit is requested. At 10 a.m., the scene is released about 3 hours and 47 minutes later. So this is one of the things that we learned in this case and then some cases that have occurred in the past year, is that we changed our protocol in the way we process crime scenes. We now photograph more thoroughly. We actually also include a videography of the scene itself, so we have a more exact and accurate representation of what the scene entails. We've learned a lot since this case took place. So let's talk about some more facts of the case. This is the incident report that was taken on May the 4th, 2017 by our deputy. So the first thing that we've heard out in the world of podcasts and online is that Heather died at 5:30 a.m. and Andy called at 6 a.m. Okay? So that's what we're going to explain first. So the call was made at 6 a.m. In law enforcement report writing, we utilize call bracketing. And so typically what we do is we back up from the time of the call, typically 30 minutes prior to the time of the call, and then the ending time is the time that we responded on scene, where we know in this situation where there's a death, 6:13 a.m., which is when the deputies responded on scene. So the 911 call was made at 6 a.m. The call bracketing allows for 30 minutes prior, which is 5:30 a.m. So it's important to note that the shot did not occur at 5:30 a.m. Something else that's important to note is in the report, the deputy noted that there was steam coming from the shower. If you can remember back to what I just said, on the 911 call, Andy indicates that at 6:10 a.m., he needs to turn off the shower. At 6:13 a.m., the deputy responds into the home and notes in his report that the bathroom appeared steamy, as if the shower or hot water had been running. This corroborates exactly what was stated on the 911 call by our deputies' findings when they arrived on scene. Another thing that was identified in the initial report is that a male, later identified as Andy, was seen holding a female, which is identified as Heather, on the floor. The deputy also indicated that when he arrived and observed Heather, there was a gunshot wound to the left side of her head, directly in front of her ear. At this point, I want to make sure everyone understands that there are going to be some images that you may see that may be graphic in nature. We'll put up a disclaimer, so please, if you don't want to see some of these images, please do not look at some of these images that we're going to post. But at this point, I want to bring up Captain Mike Hill, who is the commander of our cold case unit.
Thank you, Sheriff Henson. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Hill. I am a captain here with the Sheriff's Office here in Paulding. So what I would like to do is go through the scene and what our detectives encountered that morning first, and then I'll go into some other things here in just a few minutes. So as the timeline states, we were called to the scene by the Uniform Patrol Division based upon a person who was beyond help from a gunshot wound reported.
And we are watching along live right now as the Paulding County Sheriff and now others with the Paulding County Sheriff's Office deliver an update in the cold case death of Heather Turner, found dead on May 4th, 2017. We heard from Paulding County Sheriff Ashley Henson, who describes the Sheriff's Office assembling a revamped cold case unit. We are, as that press conference continues, waiting for the results and the conclusion in the investigation of the death of Heather Turner. That is a case that for years has been the focus of questions, including from true crime writers and podcasters, focusing on the question of whether her death was a suicide or homicide. That press conference ongoing. We are awaiting the conclusion to be revealed by those law enforcement members in Paulding County Sheriff's Office to their investigation into the death of Heather Turner. We're going to go to a brief break right now, continue to monitor that press conference. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back in as we get ready to turn to another major case, the ongoing trial of Colin Gray. We want to make a note before we turn there, though. You were just watching alongside of us as the Paulding County Sheriff's Office got ready to lay out the results of their investigation into the death of Heather Turner, the 2017 cold case. The Sheriff's Office saying today that they are going to release the results of their investigation out of respect for the victim and the family and the deceased. We have opted not to show the live footage from inside the press conference right now, as the sheriff warned graphic imagery would be up on screen. Out of respect, we don't want to show that on air. Our team is monitoring it right now. As we learn the results of this investigation, we are going to bring them to you. As we await those results, we're going to turn now to another major case. This is the trial of Colin Gray, the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter. Jurors today finishing up the week of hearing 5 days of emotional testimony from the accused gunman's grandmother today. That was one of the final witnesses. Colt Gray, the son of the man Colin Gray, who's on trial today. Colt has not gone on trial yet. His father, Colin Gray, on trial. Prosecutors working to convince jurors that he bears some responsibility for what happened that day. Both of them have pleaded not guilty, but the trial continues for Colin Gray. And our Marissa Sarbach is live right now at the Barrow County Courthouse. Marissa, what have you heard inside the courtroom today?
Well, Zach, certainly the most compelling testimony that we heard today was from Colt Gray's grandmother, who is also Colin Gray's mother-in-law. This was lengthy testimony. She was on the stand for hours between this morning and this afternoon, sharing many of the conversations that she had with Colt Gray, including one where he told her he believed that he suffered from mania and schizophrenia. Now, we also heard from a GBI special agent today. One of them took the stand showing photos of the Gray house in Barrow County, where agents collected evidence the day of the school shooting. What you're looking at are photos, pictures, and newspaper clippings about the Parkland school shooter, Nicholas Cruz, clearly displayed in Colt's room. The court was also shown photos of unlocked guns and loose ammunition all around the home. The grandma also sharing multiple concerning conversations she had with Colt over the years leading up to the shooting. Now, the prosecution is trying to prove his grandmother knew and made Colin aware of these issues, and simply nothing was done.
If I do something terrible, would you still love me? I think that's the way it was worded. I asked him why he would say that, later, and I said, why would you think that I wouldn't love you? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, why would you think about doing something terrible? And he said, I don't know, I was just asking.
Okay.
And of course, my first thought was suicide.
Yeah, I can see that.
In a conversation we had a day or two later,
Okay.
we were going to McDonald's to get food, and I can't even remember how the conversation started, but he asked me if I knew Nick Cruz, and I looked at him and I said, I've never heard of him. I didn't know who he was. And he looked at me and he said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. He said, well, have you heard of the Parkland school shooting? I said, absolutely. I read all about it, but I don't remember who did it. And he said, Nicholas Cruz did.
She testified that she tried to check Colt Gray into a mental health institution at one point, and that facility told her they were unable to take him because it had to be a drop-off by a parent. She also testified on the stand today that the rifle he is accused of using in the school shooting at Appalachia High School was a Christmas gift given to him by Colin. Live outside Barrow County Court today, Marissa Sarbach for 11Alive News.
Marissa, thank you for that update. We know you're going to continue to stay on top of this trial as long as it takes. Colin Gray, he has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder and the other charges he faces for allegedly giving his son access to the gun used in the shooting. And today, another major witness in this trial seen outside of the courthouse. That is Marcy Gray. She's expected to be the first witness called Monday when court resumes at 9 a.m. She is the mother of the accused shooter, Colt Gray. We're going to continue to stay on top of the developments as they unfold in court every day right here on 11Alive Plus.
Well, we have definitely had a beautiful day. In fact, plenty of sunshine, very spring-like today. In fact, our high was a new record high. 80 degrees was our official high. We beat a record that was set in 1986. It was definitely an above average day, and even right now, it is still very warm outside. It is 78 degrees here in Metro Atlanta, 72 in Dallas, and around 77 degrees down in Noonan. As you plan for the overnight hours, what can you expect? We'll have some increase in cloud cover over the next 4 or 5 hours, and that's going to be bringing us some isolated showers. Now, as we head into the overnight hours, some of us could be seeing some heavier rain around 4 and 5 a.m. So just make sure you are prepared for that. Maybe even a few thunderstorms embedded in there because our temperatures are still so warm. And even Saturday morning around 11 a.m., we still have some rain showers that will be developing really near central Georgia, but some of our counties that are in our viewing area could get caught in some of those heavy downpours and thunderstorms as well. We're not expecting any severe weather, but some of those storms could be on the stronger side. As we head into your Saturday evening, we'll start to dry out just a little bit, but some of us could be seeing some redeveloping isolated showers for early Sunday morning. In fact, most of us will still be sleeping as the rain moves in Sunday morning. And then as you wake up, you're going to see the difference with those temperatures. It's going to be very, very cold. In fact, we're sitting in nice warm weather right now, but we're going to have another Arctic blast, and that's going to be bringing in much colder air. You can see that change in the feels like temperature. So when you wake up Sunday morning, it could feel like 27 degrees here in Metro Atlanta. So make sure that you are prepared for that. Here's a 7-day forecast for you. 69 degrees for your Saturday, dropping back into the 40s for your Sunday, feeling more like the 30s, and the same case for your Monday as well.
Let's get a check of your traffic at 524. This is a live look tonight in Midtown. This is Armour Drive. No major issues, a little slow moving on a Friday, but we will keep our eyes on the road for you. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, tonight the Winter Games are closer to coming to an end, but there's still so much excitement. Right now, Team USA in second place for medals with 27, Norway. Cortina, which is where some competitions are happening today.
In Cortina, where Olympic history is everywhere, at the restaurant Al Paseto,
my name is Giorgio Ghedina.
Cortina resident Giorgia Ghedina
I live in Cortina d'Ampezzo.
Is pretty happy. Over the years, he's managed to collect a lot of Olympic history. It's on display all over his restaurant.
My, what do you say, passion?
Dozens and dozens of real Olympic torches hanging on the walls.
It's around 40.
A collection he's spent a lifetime.
I started to collect it 20, 25 years ago.
And fortune on.
Many opportunity to buy them and then to spend the money.
Not just collecting nearly every Olympic torch ever made, but when an Olympic medalist comes in,
yes,
they autograph the torch from the Olympics where they won. From Lindsey Vonn to Michaela Schifrin. An impressive collection that includes his favorite from Sydney.
I like the design is Sydney, because it looks like the opera.
But he says now that the Olympics are back here in Cortina, he wouldn't mind getting one more.
And the next one, Cortina 2026.
A controversial proposed update to Georgia's self-defense law clears its first hurdle. What it could mean for arrests and for law enforcement. That's next. And we are following more breaking news out of Atlanta. A hotel at Atlantic Station right now forced to evacuate.
That's right. This is happening at 12 Midtown in Atlantic Station. Atlanta Fire says that there's a power issue at this hotel and there are concerns about clean water at this property. We're told that Georgia Power, they are working to fix this issue at this hour, and building management is working to help people there find other accommodations while they fix this. But this is the same building where just yesterday we spoke to a woman who said she had been without power for nearly a week at her condo.
We paying $500, $800 a month HOA fees. Somebody should have stepped in. They went and got generators for the first floor. They had enough money in those accounts to get generators for every floor that was on there and give us service.
Yeah, the woman tells us so far she has not been told to evacuate. And we did learn today that we've heard from Georgia Power, which shared this statement reading in part. We understand how difficult this has been for residents. Our systems are fully operational and we are able to serve the building. This outage does not stem from any issue with equipment owned or managed by Georgia Power. That statement goes on to say that the power can only be restored once the landlord completes repairs and confirms the building can receive power from the utility company.
Some Georgia lawmakers now want to make it easier for people with guns to claim they are using them in self-defense. Critics, though, say the bill would make it too easy. 11Alive's Doug Richards has more on a proposed update to the Stand Your Ground law.
At the Georgia Capitol, many lawmakers view guns as defensive weapons, protected by the Constitution. A House bill seeks to make the legal presumption of defense even easier.
It's not about letting murderers go, but it's about protecting those that's protecting themselves or others.
A Middle Georgia sheriff was talking up a House bill which backers say would bring Georgia in line with 18 other states. The bill's language says law enforcement should not arrest a person for using or threatening to use force unless a probable cause determination shows it was unlawful.
It makes it look like if you're the aggressor, you can now claim self-defense.
But critics of the bill told a House committee it would broaden gun rights too much.
We can solve your problem without undoing the entire self-defense code.
We don't want to pin in our law enforcement. We want them to be able to look at cases and look at the evidence, right? And this would put an extra burden on our law enforcement.
Backers of the bill outnumbered critics on the committee, sending it to the full House for a possible vote. At the Capitol, Doug Richards, 11Alive News.
Let's get another check of your 11Alive weather impact forecast. Meteorologist Danielle Moss, I'm having a hard time believing that we're in February.
I know. Well, Faith, I have bad news for you. By the time we get to Monday, you are going to be positive that we are in the month of February because it is going to be so cold. But it's beautiful right now. In fact, we actually broke a record today. Here's a look at all the details that you need to know. 79 degrees. That was our official high. Our old record of 78 degrees was set in 1986. This is the second day in a row where we have been seeing record-breaking temperatures. It has definitely been very warm this month. In fact, as you take a look at our February highs throughout the last 20 days, we have been above average throughout most of them. There's only been around 3 or 4 days where we were below average. So, no, this has not felt like winter at all. It's felt more like spring, and it has been wonderful. But unfortunately, big weather changes are coming. So let's time it out for you. What can you expect? Here's a look at our current satellite and radar. We are continuing to see some cloud cover really increasing. Rain showers right now are holding south of Macon, but we're going to see some more rain developing here very, very soon. As you take a closer look here in metro Atlanta, we are nice and dry. Cloud cover and some rain showers were into West Georgia a little bit earlier this afternoon, but now we're starting to see some nice clearing skies. Here's a live look from our Decatur tower camera. A beautiful sunset setting up right now, and our temperatures are still well above average. It is actually 78 degrees right now in Atlanta, and it feels like 78. But here's what you need to know. We are tracking really big weather changes for us. Saturday morning, we will be tracking some rain showers, which will lead into a windy and cold start for your Sunday. And then we're going to be saying goodbye to spring very, very soon. In fact, overnight tonight, you might as well go ahead and say goodbye to that warmer weather, because as soon as that rain starts, that will be the beginning of those weather changes for us. We're going to see some spotty showers over the next 24 to 48 hours, maybe a few thunderstorms. Severe weather is not expected, but then this cold and wind will be coming on in for your Sunday and your Monday, and you're definitely going to feel the difference, and we will be back into winter. I'll time that out for you coming up in my full forecast.
We look forward to it, Danielle. Thank you so much. Hey, still to come tonight, the focus on the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping now turns to genealogy. We have the latest on this investigation. Right now, the search for Nancy Guthrie is ongoing. Well, now investigators, they are working to identify a potential match on a glove found 2 miles from the 84-year-old's home.
With no initial DNA match, investigators are now turning to one of their newest tools to crack cases, known as genetic genealogy. Maribel Gonzalez breaks down the new science.
20 minutes to over 7.5 years. That's how long results from the investigative genetic genealogy analysis of DNA found on a glove recovered near Nancy Guthrie's home could take to help identify a suspect, according to one of the nation's leading experts.
In genetic genealogy, we can use second, third, fourth, fifth cousins and beyond to reverse engineer the identity of this individual.
The FBI ran the DNA from a glove through CODIS. That's a national database used to check for a match with known offender profiles. But the Pima County Sheriff reported no matches.
The person doesn't have a record. He's not in the FBI system.
Now, investigators are using genetic genealogy to uncover those who share DNA with a potential suspect.
Let's say we get a match with somebody who is a second cousin. Second cousins share a set of great-grandparents. And so if we've got a couple of people who are matching the second cousins, we can then identify that common set of great-grandparents.
Then experts trace the descendants and determine which of them could be the suspect.
This could take a while.
It's a painstaking process that's been used before to solve cases like the Golden State Killer in 2018. Meantime, the databases investigators have access to without a warrant or court order are limited.
There's a misconception that law enforcement can access Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, and MyHeritage. They absolutely cannot, because those companies have barred them from doing that.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
And according to the FBI, the glove with DNA on it was one of 16 gloves found near Guthrie's home. Most of them belonged to searchers who discarded them while working in the area.
Well, the world will be paying respects to the Reverend Jesse Jackson next week. We know that Jackson died this week at the age of 84. The civil rights icon and the 2-time presidential candidate, he will lie in repose next week at the Chicago headquarters of his Rainbow Push Coalition. A public celebration of life and a homegoing service, those will follow. Services are being held in Washington, D.C. and South Carolina over a span of days.
But we are very warm right now, but we are tracking some really cold air that's coming in from Canada. Have more details on the winter anticipation coming up after the break.
Welcome back in, and we have an update for you, and a good update if you're a U.S. hockey fan. That game just concluded. We're going to go to a quick break and then rejoin you on 11Alive on television in just a moment. Well, thanks for joining us here on 11Alive News after that big USA hockey win right here on NBC and 11Alive News. We appreciate you being here. I'm Zach Merchant.
And I'm Faith Jesse, and we do want to turn to some breaking news for you at 5:44. This is out of Atlanta. A hotel at Atlantic Station forced to evacuate. It's happening at 12 Midtown. Take a look here. Atlanta Fire says that there is a power issue at this hotel. There are concerns about clean water there as well, and we're told that Georgia Power is working to fix this issue. Building management is working to help people find other accommodations. But this is the same building where just yesterday we spoke to a woman who said she had been without power for nearly a week at her condo.
We paying $500, $800 a month HOA fees. Somebody should have stepped in. They went and got generators for the first floor. They had enough money in those accounts to get generators for every floor that was on there and give us service.
Yeah, the woman telling us so far she has not been told to evacuate. Earlier, we did hear from Georgia Power, which shared a statement reading in part. We understand how difficult this has been for residents. Our systems are fully operational and we were able to serve the building. This outage does not stem from any issues with equipment owned or managed by Georgia Power. That statement goes on to say that power can only be restored once the landlord completes repairs and confirms that building can receive power from this utility company. Another big headline we're following for you today. Just hours ago, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that President Donald Trump exceeded his authority when imposing sweeping tariffs using a law reserved for a national emergency.
Now, this all stems from a couple of small businesses filing suit arguing that the tariffs on imports from China specifically were unlawful. The owners say tariffs were so high it was impossible to get what they needed to do business. One big question now after the court's ruling is whether the Trump administration is going to have to pay back all of those American companies that have been paying the extra money when they bring materials in from other countries. In the past, the Treasury Secretary has said if the government were to lose in court, it would have to issue refunds worth about $130 billion. President Donald Trump has said he has other options to continue leveling tariffs besides the Emergency Powers Act.
But other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives, great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money, and we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so.
So that's what we're hearing from the president today. 11Alive's Chase Howell, he spoke to a local toy store owner about this decision from the Supreme Court just a day after President Trump's visit to Northwest Georgia, where tariffs came up in his speech more than once.
While Trump was in Rome Thursday touting his widespread tariffs.
Tariffs, what would you do? You know what? Everybody would be bankrupt. Everybody. The whole country would be bankrupt.
The United States Supreme Court was getting ready to hand down a ruling that would take away some of his power to impose them on Friday.
We pay it, we move on.
That's been Joe Novak's motto over the last year of having to pay tariffs. Inside his Buckhead store, Kazoo Toys, products from all around the world.
Sadly, I would say almost 90% of our product is brought in, mostly from China. Those 30% are difficult to manage.
Needless to say, Novak is relieved most of the sweeping tariffs are gone, especially because he was eating some of the costs so customers wouldn't have to.
It'd be great if somehow that money could be sent back to either us, maybe the consumers, the people that have spent that money. Maybe it's in a tax rebate for everyone because we've all been spending additional money in the last year or so. Am I counting on that? No.
But tariffs or not, Novak says he'll always do what's best for his customers. In Buckhead, Chase Howell, 11Alive News.
Yeah, so this is major news. If you are wondering when we will see those tariffs that were struck down removed, the Supreme Court says that'll happen immediately.
Well, it has been an absolutely gorgeous day today with plenty of sunshine. We did start off with some rain showers and some thunderstorms moved through early this morning, but our high was 80 degrees and that put us at a record high temperature here in Metro Atlanta. Our old record was 78 degrees and that was set in 1986, and it has definitely been very, very warm today, very spring-like. In fact, even right now, it is 78 degrees here in Metro Atlanta, 76 in Marietta, and around 76 down in Fayetteville. Here is a live look outside. Yes, we have some clouds and we're going to continue to be cloudy for the overnight hour. And as we go into your Saturday, this is the beginning of big weather changes for us. Our temperatures tonight will still be warm, still well above average for what we should be for our low temperature as you wake up Saturday morning. However, the rain showers that are coming tonight and into your Saturday morning, that's going to be the start of the big changes. So let's time it all out for you. What can you expect? Increasing cloud cover for the rest of this evening and going into the early morning hours for Saturday. A few thunderstorms are definitely possible in West Georgia as the rest of this front marches through the state. Yes, we could have some spotty showers. Yes, they can be heavy at times, but everyone won't see the same amount of rain or the possibility of thunderstorms. We're not expecting any severe weather. In fact, the stronger storms are going to be staying down to the south of Atlanta and the south of our viewing area, really going through Macon and heading towards Augusta and in East Georgia. But we will continue to see that cloud cover be pretty thick throughout the day on Saturday and for your Sunday. Even with the clouds, we are not expecting our temperatures to be taking a big hit on Saturday. Highs to be near 69 degrees. But look at the difference between your Saturday and your Sunday. That is a 20-degree difference. Those are your actual temperatures. We are also going to be talking about the chance to see some spotty showers for your Sunday. And it looks like this is going to be early Sunday morning before you really get up. But once you wake up on Sunday, those temperatures are going to be very, very different. We're in this nice warm sector right now, but we are anticipating a cold blast that will be coming through and bringing us much colder air. This is a look at your feels like temperatures. Sunday morning at 10 a.m. it could feel like 27 degrees here in Metro Atlanta. Same for your Sunday evening. And Monday morning when you wake up, it'll be the kids' first day back at school for many. It will be a very cold start, so make sure that they are bundled up and prepared for the cold weather. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast for you. You can see the big dip. 69 degrees will be your high for your Saturday, into the 40s for your Sunday and your Monday. It will feel more like the 30s for your Sunday and more like the 20s for your Monday. So make sure you are paying close attention to that forecast throughout the next few days. Hey, here's a look at your weather wow moment. This is a beautiful rainbow in Decula sent in by Bobby Hockett. Thank you so much for sending in this photo. Even through the clouds, we can always see a beautiful blessing from the sky. Hey, we love to see your beautiful weather photos. Send it to us. Join our 11Alive Weather Impact Facebook group. We love to see your photos, and you can see others as well. It's free. Just answer that question yes, and we'll let you in.
Stories that move Metro Atlanta. Weeknights on 11Alive News.
They want us to forget that for years they let dangerous criminals into our country. They want us to forget their names and who took them from us. They want to give dangerous illegal immigrants sanctuary, defying federal laws, causing chaos, and putting our safety at risk. Enough is enough. We must let Immigration and Customs Enforcement do its job, removing dangerous criminals from our neighborhoods and keeping America safe.
Georgia is Trump country, and today, breaking news.
The president is weighing in on the 2026 race for governor, throwing his support behind Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones.
He has my complete and total endorsement. You will be very happy, Georgia.
I'm Alec England.
And I'm Garrett Elkins.
And we're out in Swanee, Georgia, lifting up the Settling Homes Foundation.
Let's go check it out.
As you can see, we lifted the wall back to original position, did all the masonry, tuck pointing as necessary, try to make it look as original as possible. Once this dries, ages, and cures, it'll look back to its original color up through here.
I was at work. I tripped over a post that was in the floor. I was in the worst pain I have ever been in my life. I decided to call Morgan & Morgan. Working with them was so easy. Everything went very smooth. I never had to go to the office until I went to pick up my check. You don't pay them a dime unless they win. They want to do right by you. Call Morgan & Morgan. They got you.
Georgia is Trump country, and today, breaking news.
The president is weighing in on the 2026 race for governor, throwing his support behind Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones.
He has my complete and total endorsement. You will be very happy, Georgia.
Well, tonight we are learning more about the plans to bring an ICE detention facility to Social Circle.
That's right. According to a post from the city on Facebook citing a meeting with the Department of Homeland Security, that detention facility in Social Circle will be one of 8 mega centers slated to open across the country. The facility is expected to house anywhere from 7,500 to 10,000 detainees and employing as many as 2,500 people. DHS expects to award a construction contract within days, with the build out taking just 60 to 75 days. And we're hearing that intake could potentially start sometime in May. So very quick turnaround here. But city leaders in Social Circle say that their infrastructure cannot support this. They say wastewater systems are already at capacity. The new treatment plant they're planning will not be ready for at least a year. They say that documents show the facility alone would generate more than 1 million gallons of sewage a day. Keep in mind the city's population, just about 5,000 people there. The city also says that its water supply cannot meet the demand.
And tonight, a father will remain in jail after his 2-year-old son accidentally shot himself.
That's right. We're talking about Richard Willis. He faced a judge today. He was denied bond. Willis faces second-degree murder and cruelty to children. Warrants show the child shot himself and died on Wednesday after removing the gun from a fanny pack that was in his parents' bedroom. The family had just returned to their home in Sandy Springs from a medical procedure. Well, tonight there is a GoFundMe as the family prepares to lay that child to rest.
Still ahead, Paulding County investigators revealing new DNA evidence in a decades-old mystery. What they're now saying happened to Heather Turner after years of uncertainty. That all is next.
Celebrating a century in motion, Black History Month, sponsored by Sweet James Accident Attorneys.
I'm Chesley McNeil, meteorologist at 11Alive. I love preparing you for the day ahead. Because weather never stops, neither do we. Make the move to Atlanta's #1 streaming newscast, anywhere you watch.
Burt Jones has been taking Georgians for a ride, using his office to make himself rich. Burt voted to raise his own taxpayer-funded pension by 40%. Then, Burt used his power and influence to back a $10 billion sweetheart deal to build data centers on his family's land, making them even richer.
Let's go for a little ride.
Tell Burt Jones to stop taking Georgia taxpayers for a ride.
Hospitals become successful when people know that the hospitals in their neighborhoods, their communities are taking care of them. My name is Spike Lee. Born in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a proud Grady baby.
So I had pain in my feet for a good 20 years.
It felt like I was standing on marbles.
Something wasn't working with my feet. Was diagnosed with plantar fasciitis.
If your feet aren't comfortable, the rest of the body suffers.
So I went into the Good Feet store and bam. They wanted to make sure that they gave me the right arch support.
You put in the arch supports. To me, it was almost miraculous.
It really brought me back to being able to be me.
I can run, I can walk. This is not something that you could solve online.
Reclaim the good life with a free arch support fitting at the Good Feet store. Good feet, good life.
Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today and start packing.
Some trips are felt beyond words. By land, by air, by sea. No one connects you to Alaska like Princess. Princess Cruises. Book now.
I'm Sean Harris. Out-of-touch politicians, Republicans and Democrats don't understand how difficult things are for hard-working Georgians. I do. Here's my plan. Cap prescription drug prices. Make housing affordable, prosecute price gouging, stop politicians trading stocks, and impose term limits. As a combat veteran and cattle farmer, I'm done with the... I'm Sean Harris. I approve this message because it's time we have leaders who work for us and not their party.
Tonight at 6, part of an Atlantic Station high-rise evacuated due to unsafe sanitation conditions.